Our numerous comments, just continue to file in, but we do want to get started with the meeting because it is an advertised public meeting. There's 6 o'clock and additional hearing. So I'm going to call the Muhlenberg Township Board of Commissioners meeting for Monday, July 17, 2023 to order. All please rise for a pledge of allegiance standing from Memorial Moment. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a memorial moment for Mike Setley. As many of you know, Michael was our solicitor for Muhlenberg Township since 2012. And for Hilda Kirscher, Hilda was the mother of her customer service employee, Kim Schwanwa. Thank you. Good evening, Marcy. This for the minutes, there was an executive session held by the board before tonight's meeting to discuss personnel matters. Commissioner Lozoda did call in for that meeting. He is on vacation, so there on the call. So first, for the public presentation, before we get into the additional use hearing, we do need a motion to ratify a declaration of disaster emergency for the storm event that occurred on July 9th, 2023.
Second.
Questions or comments? I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions and comments when we get into the public portion, but
For comments, just to understand that we need to declare our declaration along with other municipalities, and that is taken to the county level. County level information is given up to the Commonwealth and then given up to Washington.
That's correct. I was going to speak a little bit about the process.
Did
But
you still use-
no, you did already. That's okay. That is the process. And what we've encouraged anybody that was impacted by the flooding to do is to visit our website and fill out a survey, a form that we have online that will detail the damage sustained at your property. All of that information is needed to complete the FEMA reports that are due back to the county. So if you haven't done that yet, I encourage you to do that. Visit our website at muhlenbergtop.com. And I think Chief Lopko can also speak a bit about the response, the amount of calls that they received through that time as well. Go ahead. Yes.
All right, so obviously the storm event impacted us from approximately started at 1 p.m. For the next 12 hours. The NCFR responded to 98 calls for service in that 12 hours. Give you an idea, average day call volume for us is 3 to 4 calls. Upwards of 40 to 50 pump details, 33 structure investigations, 18 water rescues. Of those 18 water rescues, there's probably even more that were actually not called into 911. Our best guess and estimate is approximately 50 people in the township were rescued from their home into the pools or floodwaters. To give you an idea, personnel wise, we had 24 personnel, including myself. So that's 23 volunteers from the department, which accumulated to 227 man hours, and approximately another 40 personnel from outside agencies. Mutual aid assistance. There were 17 fire departments that assisted us from Berks, Lebanon, and Schuylkill County, which included the Peter Park team, which is an aquatic helicopter rescue team, which helped on Mount Laurel Road, as well as the Public Works Department and the Township Police Department. Like I mentioned, we had some specialized equipment that assisted us here during the storm event. We had a helicopter from the National Guard, 3 high water vehicles, 4 township dump trucks that were utilized as high water vehicles, 3 inflatable rescue boats, and approximately 25 large diameter and submersible pumps. So that kind of outlines our response.
Thank you. In addition to those efforts,
Nobody can hear.
Even volume or anything you're saying, it's all this moment.
The only person we heard speaking was Jim, that's it. We don't hear anything.
And that's all of us.
yeah, if we could silence the cell phones too, would be greatly appreciated, but Chief, can you hear us? Can you hear us all right back here now?
I can hear you.
Okay, couldn't hear the chief. Chief, go ahead, one more time. Let me know if you can hear the chief.
You guys hear me back there?
Little better.
A little better.
Just look back that way. So,
We'll give you an outline here of our response. Fire department in 12 hours on July 9th responded to 98 calls for service. Usually for us in a day, we average about 3 to 4 calls. Of those 98 calls, 40 to 50 were pump and tails, 33 were structure investigations, 18 were water rescues. Of those 18 water rescues, approximately 50 people were rescued from vehicles, homes, and floodwaters. From our department, we had about 24 personnel that assisted accumulated 227 man hours during the storm and response, and another 40 personnel from outside mutual aid departments. Of that mutual aid, we have about 17 fire departments in First, 11 in Schuylkill County, as well as the Pennsylvania helicopter aquatic rescue team from the National Guard. With assistance as well from the Township Public Works and Police Department. And specialized equipment that we had brought in for the township here, as I mentioned, the National Guard helicopter, 3 high water vehicles, 4 township dump trucks that were used as high water vehicles, 3 inflatable rescue boats, another 25 large diameter pumps to set.
thank you. Also some updates on some of the other cleanup and repairs that were occurring. Rising Sun Avenue, as of this morning, was getting milled out and repaved. Miller Street and Water Street was restored by Friday of last week. And another contractor was utilized to help with the cleanup of the debris and trash that was associated with the flooding. Mascaro did collect on both Thursday and Friday, both sides of the township, trash that was put out, flood damage trash. They also had an extra 2 trucks in the township on Saturday and collected an estimated 70 tons, I believe, of waterlogged or 17 tons of material flood debris. We had some dumpsters out for people to be able to drop their trash off that. Unfortunately, over the weekend, they started to get abused by non-residents, and so those dumpsters are no longer available. However, Mascaro will continue to collect any trash or debris that gets put out. The township will also continue to collect the wood waste as we have done up until this point. So if you have material out from a Mascaro perspective, leave it out. If you have wood waste out, tree trunks and things like that, you call into the office and we'll get you on the list. And as crews come through, we'll be able to collect all the material. The street sweeper has been out and will continue to be out cleaning catch basins and sweeping streets as well, collecting debris. So.
Thank you, guys. Okay, I just need we had a second and a motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Noes, if any. The ayes have it, so ordered. Currently now I'm going to turn the meeting over to our solicitor, Kelsey Frankowski, to talk about a 2800 River Road conditional use hearing.
All right, can everybody hear me? Yeah, in the back? Okay. Good evening, I'm Kelsey Frankowski, I'm serving as solicitor for the township. And this is the time and place that has been advertised for a conditional use hearing of Robert Carvajal, I hope I'm getting that right, of Opportunity Behavioral Health concerning property located at 2800 River Road in Muhlenberg Township. And they're requesting conditional use to use the property as a group home under section 355-18C2 of the township zoning ordinance. So if I could have the representative from Opportunity Behavioral Health, please come forward. So if there's no representative here, yeah, then I would entertain a motion to continue the hearing with re-advertisement for a later date.
Gotcha. Can I have a motion to reschedule the 2800 River Road conditional use hearing for a later date?
So. Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Noes, if any. The ayes have it, so ordered. Public portion. Look, we know everyone, there's a lot of folks here that want to talk about the flood, and we've been, all living and dealing with it for the past, since July 9th. So We just ask to be respectful to the others who are talking to the board or asking questions to the board, to limit your time, and hopefully we can, answer the questions to the best of our ability. And we'll try to do that. I think if we've seen that the township's trying to do everything we possibly can to help those residents that were impacted. And there's some stuff that the board will be deciding one day regarding the Muhlenberg Township Authority. Just so you all know, as of right now, that is a different governing body at the current time without oversight from us. So that is different, but we are going to be speaking to that at some point during tonight. But for right now, I think first signed up is Diane and Denise Mulholland from Mount Morrow Road. If you'd like to come up and say a few words.
Realize I have this.
You don't have to, you don't have to, you don't have to.
Okay, all I really wanted to say was, we lived in for 20 years in our house on that long road. It's not from disasters. And it floods, the creek floods at least every 2 years since we're there, but this is the worst. And I guess we're just wondering when or who is gonna correct the problem at the source. It seems to be up the mountain wherever the creek starts, and is there anything being done, and who does it? It's been 20 years.
No, they're great questions. Jim and Jeremy, if you want to elaborate a little bit on those questions, but you didn't. Go ahead.
Yep, so we're currently in conversation with the senator's office. A very important distinction, though, that needs to be made is that this is going to be a very unpopular statement. There's two bodies of water in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Those are navigable and non-navigable bodies of water. The Schuylkill River is a navigable body of water, which means at some point in history, there were boats that used the water for transportation. The Laurel Run Creek, the Bernhardt's Creek, and the two unnamed tributaries to both of those creeks in Muhlenberg Township are considered non-navigable streams. Ownership and maintenance responsibilities of non-navigable streams fall to the property owners that the stream either runs through or abuts. Now, popular opinion, right? But I can't change that. The Commonwealth can't change that.
Touch it.
You told us we couldn't touch the creek or we'd get in trouble.
Okay, so
Let him speak.
Let him speak.
I'm just asking a question.
Okay, well, everyone will have their opportunity to ask questions, so Jim, go ahead.
the governing body that regulates what can and can't be done in the creek is the Department of Environmental Protection. For what it's worth, Muhlenberg Township 2 years ago started the process of applying for permits to perform riparian forest buffers and stream bank restorations on the Laurel Run Creek in the area of Laurel Lane Park on Hayne Avenue. 2 years. It took 2 years for the township to acquire the permits to perform approximately $420,000 worth of work. That cost is to restore 1,000 linear feet of stream bank. $420,000 for 2 years for 1,000 feet of stream bank. Okay, Muhlenberg Township does not enforce the DEP regulations. The Berks County Conservation District does. The Berks County Conservation District and DEP have the authority to cite for work performed if you are disturbing the stream bed itself.
We need to make it deeper, is the point, like, you can't get in there,
Those,
we get on the side.
those conversations have all been had with the state, and unfortunately, the amount of engineering work that needs to go into that process, the state's not willing to pay for that at this point. Now, through this declaration of disaster emergency, there is the potential that federal and state funds will be released and will be, these types of projects can be looked at. But again, number one, there's no guarantee that state and federal funds will be released at all. If anybody's watching the news, you've seen what's going on in Vermont right now, and that's 80% of the state versus 5 or 10% of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
For about 20 years now, I've wanted to take a bulldozer down Laurel Run Creek and clean it out and make sure we had some type of stream bed. So when in some areas, 1 foot of water goes over the creek. We were sued how many years ago, for doing that same thing.
$196,000 the township was sued because we went and tried to fix that at Bernhard Creek. Because the state will not allow us to go into these waterways. They just won't.
I called Judy Schwank a lot, I just sent her another message saying this, and the Laurel Run Creek, in my opinion, isn't even a creek, because it doesn't even flow half the time down around in my area. It only flows when there's a lot of water that's coming down. But the problem is there's no stream beds, and when there's a lot of water, then it pushes that. The other problem is for the water to get out of Muhlenberg and into the Schuylkill River, like a funnel, it goes underneath the river road. So only so much water can go underneath River Road because there's a bridge there, and that opening is probably about 12 by 15 feet. And all this water that comes down from Temple through Brennan Crest, down to Laurel Run, all this water has to go through that tiny opening. That's one of the problems, because then everything backs up, and then it goes into our homes.
So this, that's a little information. We'll answer some more questions.
Well, if we know what the problem is, can't we find a solution to fix it?
Can I say
You
something?
know, honestly, I lived there for 27 years on the corner of 8 Road. 2020 and this year was the worst.
Excuse me, can I?
And the creek bed needs to be cleaned out. And you know what? It's easier just to do it and ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission, to me. Because the amount of damage, if you see my house, I don't want to go through this again.
Me too. I lost
I don't
my
have a drive.
We have some, we need some semblance. So, sir, can you come up and state your name, where you're at in the book, and that we have to be able to have folks on the record, so we can be in contact with you.
Yeah.
Look, we all know everyone's frustrated, believe me, we all know, but we're gonna try to explain to you the capacity of what we can do as a board. And unfortunately, sometimes that's just, look, we would love people to go into the stream and do
Listen,
something.
I understand that, and so do most of these people, that we can't, the state controls a lot of this. But Judy Schwank is not a friend of Muhlenberg as far as I'm concerned, because she just wants to keep everything natural. She doesn't live down there. Okay, all I'm asking for, if we know what the problem is, there is a solution that we can come up with. We're gonna need federal money, we're gonna need state money. You know, there's a lot of folks here that don't have insurance for what just happened. You know, I got $30,000 worth of damage.
Sure, I understand that. I'm not sure we want to get into an insurance conversation. I can't.
Well, I'm not gonna get into
We
it,
can't-
but this could have been prevented. It really could have.
Well, I'm not sure. I can't answer that. question.
Okay, listen, do you want to go into the mechanics of it? Okay, the sewer system was overloaded. Okay, we have too much storm water going into the sewer system. That needs to be addressed. Do you know that? We need, you're a good inspector. There's jobs that I've gone on where the house was sold 6 months ago. And the sump pump is going into the sanitary. It was not picked up on an inspection when they sold the house. Okay, there's so many houses where the stratons are so low. We get storm water and it goes into the sewer. That all needs to be addressed.
No, I don't disagree with you at all.
Okay, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah,
Let's just start to address the little things,
Sure.
and I think that will get to the big things.
No, I do appreciate it, Commissioner. No, I hear you.
Okay? That's all.
I think, folks, can you hear me in the back? So we understand, you know, the creek bed itself is an issue. And you've heard us say that there are things that we can and cannot do. And I heard the comments, you need to just go in and do it and take the fines. But, you know, as a government body here that's elected by you to do things following state statute, you know, we cannot sit here and authorize somebody to do something illegally, even though we probably would all like to go out there with shovels and take care of it. But, you know, we can't authorize somebody to do something illegally that would put us in a position, where somebody's gonna come out and find the township. And I understand the frustration, believe me, we do. We have been talking about this. We do the things that we are allowed to do by law.
And I come up and speak.
So, we do have a number of folks that are signed in.
If you're signed in, we'll get to you when we're gonna go down the whole list, so if you're on the list, we'll get to you, so. Thank you, Commissioner. So we do have a David Rivera and Kristen, I can't read from 1309 right?
Yeah, sorry. Hi, my name is David Rivera. I'm at 1309 with Kristen. We had a lot of fun damage. I had an RV that was parked next to the house. The RV went into the neighbor's yard. Halfway through, luckily it held because of the trees, but it's pretty much a wash. My other neighbor on the other side has a shed that's approaching my yard. I landed on my fence with 3 trees underneath. I do not have big equipment. My neighbors across the street from me owns a construction company. 2 doors down, they own a construction company. They've been out there all week with equipment, piling up, okay? Same with this guy, 2B stone, 4 trucks of 2B stone, which ended up in my yard the last time I did it 2 months ago. And I got it all in my yard now, so these guys are able to do, they have big equipment, so they're in there scooping, like making walls. Meanwhile, I'm in the middle and I have, the river is usually this deep, this river, I say river, because if you have seen this thing. The creek is usually this deep. Well, now it busted out 10 feet of the wall, so now it's only yay deep till it goes into my yard. If it rains again tomorrow, if it rains 2 inches tomorrow, that water is going to go into my yard. And since this neighbor has a high wall now, and this neighbor has a high wall now, where do you think that water is going to go to? I can't go to him and say, stop building this or stop doing this when you guys gave them the permission. Well, they said, everybody do the thing. I do not have the equipment for that. And I need help. Basically, I'm requesting for people to come to, I have pictures. You can look at the address. There's giant boulders that I had to pull out with hands and I cannot do anymore. My back hurts, I pulled something. Anyway, I need equipment to build that court, at least to where it was. I'm not, these guys are all building and you see the level, it's like, I'm the only guy on the block in 4 houses, 5 houses that doesn't have equipment at their house yet. Everybody's already building walls now. I can't tell them what to do. I'm just sitting here like, I have nothing. Nobody has touched my house. I've seen you. I want to thank you, James. I appreciate your help. He was hands-on. I seen these guys come out and help sub pump and everything. All right. Anyway, I can really use some equipment at this address, 1309. I have a fence. I have a dog that I have to go out every day and walk, but it's a fence, and my garage is literally 4 steps from the creek. But now it's right up against. So now next rain, the only thing that survived the outside was the garage. I lost a 20 by 20 foot shed and everything in it, like tools and everything. Well, my garage stayed up, but it washed everything out. But the structure kind of stayed, but it's only a couple feet away. I need someone to come there and take a look for safety because I have big giant holes, big giant boulders that I cannot move, and I do not have the equipment. Like I said, all my neighbors around me are building up against there so that I know that next time it rains, all that stuff that they just made is gonna go in my house, through my house. And right now, I have a shed that's across on my property line. A shed with a car in it. They took the car out, thank God, but the shed is on a cement thing and it's on trees and it's derooted and it's on my fence. So it's literally 4 steps from my house. Next rain, since everybody built up and I had that hole there, that next rain might take that shed into my house and I'm gonna be stuck there. And like, we're talking taking down the house. You can literally count steps to where this is gonna happen. So I'm requesting help with equipment. Everything can be done with maybe a skid loader and maybe one of those little scoop out, whatever, but the creek needs to get built up to at least back to where it was, because next rainstorm, it's gonna come right into my garage. Like I can show you a picture and you'll say, wow, it does need attention. And I'm going to email, if you give me an email address, I called Rod messages about equipment. I know everybody's busy, everybody's doing their thing, but the next rain, we're at that corner there at Rising Sun, at that corner where everything piles up, like that giant hole. And if you've seen that, we're right across the street from there. That is us. You've seen where we're at. We're right at that corner. And we get everything that comes from that end. I just show you a video, that's just crazy. You've seen what it looked like over there. And our sub pump came out. So anyway, I'm requesting equipment, help, I can't do it. I don't have the machinery. Everybody has machinery around me. And I'm the one who's sitting around the block like, yeah, but my house is still destroyed. the road's getting done, so that's gonna look good. So by tomorrow, the road should be done, the neighbors with the construction equipment should be done, but we got two houses, me and my neighbor, which, oh. There they are.
We got pictures.
It's their shed that's in my yard, and, you know, I don't have the equipment, and they also have the neighbors on the other side have. So they'll speak as well, and so, but they're not the neighbors. But anyway, I need equipment and help, and that's all I'm requesting.
So anybody that needs that kind of help, you can either send me an email or call me tomorrow. A group reached out to us Thursday of last week called the Rubicon Group. They're veterans that are, that come back in and help communities such as ours that were impacted. They were going to perform their own, what they call a windshield survey that was going to determine the need for them to be able to mobilize crews. They'll come in and they'll volunteer and help with that kind of work, with exactly that kind of work. Tracy, were you raised? Yeah. Okay, and we've been in contact too. So anybody that needs that kind of help, we can put you in touch with that Rubicon group. I tell you what I can do is I'll leave a notepad over by the door over there. If you need help from a property perspective, the Rubicon group will get back to them and ask for their help, and then put them in touch with you guys or put you guys in touch with them.
You know how long, all I'm just saying is, I'm worried next inch and a half, because it's lower than it was. And I already lost the shed, and my garage is hanging on by stilts, so I'm waiting for the insurance to come in tomorrow, take pictures.
Yeah.
It might be a wash too, but, they will know how, okay, we can build it up to this high.
So that they'll know, and for what it's worth, if the neighbors, if people around you have been putting sediment and debris back into the creek.
Which,
Okay.
they've been keeping an eye on it.
Okay, so that's where the conservation district comes into play. Again, you made a statement earlier that the township was authorizing those things. The township does not have the authority to authorize anybody to do anything in the creek. That all comes from the conservation district and from DEP. So if you see those kinds of things happening, if you see people putting this stuff back.
Plus,
into
there's
the
a
creek.
thin line between, you could put the stuff in the embankment and build your wall, and hey, yes, it just went in the creek. So that's the gray area of that. Okay, so when Rubicon, whatever comes to my house, I want them to build the wall where, like you say, build the wall, but all you have to just get put back up, really.
They're going to do what they have the authority to do. I'll pass this around. I mean, give me a name, phone number, address, and we'll go from there. I'll reach back out to them and find out what their decision was on that survey.
Okay, and just as like everybody else, is it gonna fix the problem? We've been here 2 years, we got 2 big floods. This one was worse than the last one. There's no, you guys can't do anything about it. It's kind of like, that's basically what you're saying, is that's already here, but can't do anything about it. So now it's okay, we build up the walls bigger.
We understand that.
Yeah.
Believe me, we've tried, Commissioner Wolfinger's point is it's very frustrating, because we feel your pain, there's very little we can do other than offer.
The equipment help with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly.
Anything we can do,
Yeah.
if we need to do something short term, Jim and Jeremy, you're over there every day, we'll try to do everything we can to get you the appropriate help that we're authorized to be able to do. I promise you that.
Okay, I'm gonna leave you with my name and contact numbers. If you need an email to show you the pictures and see what kind of equipment you need. And you've been out there, you know where we're at too. So, okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Joanne Vignana?
Minaya.
Vignana?
Hi,
Hi,
how are you?
good, how are you?
I'm okay, so far so good. I was one of the ones that had maybe, old water. I was one of the rescues from the helicopter and through a window. My granddaughter, my father was 82. My concern is, this is my house. This is my house. So the creek comes like this. Is there a wall that I could put there so that the water won't come into the house? Because everything is lost, by the way. The garage, the cars. There's 2 cars in my property that I don't know if the insurance is gonna pick up, but if they don't, I'm gonna come to you because they were there and they got damaged by that water. But is there anything that I could do to that creek? Any wall that I could put that you could give me an advice for so that I could save a little bit of what I purchased?
the best advice that anybody can provide to you is to reach out to the Berks County Conservation District. Again, the township doesn't have the authority to tell you what you can and can't do in the floodplain and that close to the creek. Your best option is to call out or go visit the Conservation District there on County Welfare Road in Byrne Township and to speak with them.
Is there any way that you could provide me with that address or a phone number so that I could reach out to them, please?
Yeah, their information is available online. Let me look it up here.
I was out,
So-
I was out at her house and I saw.
And this gentleman was in my house as well.
I don't like your fish. You're getting-
Yes, me and her, we had fishes and
God bless you.
I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen, and I don't want to go through it again because I really thought that we were gonna drown in it. It was coming in through the windows in the front. And it busted the door, but we were able to put some towels and some stuff, but still came in. So is this gonna happen every time it rains? Oh,
But it's also important to remember that we had 9 inches of rain in.
a couple of hours. I know.
So we had 3 inches of rain, or 2.5 inches of rain on, very early Sunday morning. And it didn't happen then. The creek didn't flood again. So and we can all talk about the extreme flooding events and we won't talk about a 100-year storm and 500-year storm. We won't talk about those things. But the reality is it was 9 inches of rain
In a matter of
in
3
4
or
or 5
5
hours.
hours.
In 2020, we had 7.5 inches of rain in 45 minutes, right?
So, okay, so I have 500 feet of fencing that is gone. All of it is gone. She could show, she knows, I don't know who else, but it's all gone. So I need to pay for permit to put my fencing up. Or can I just tell you where I want to put the fence? And you guys help me by saying yes.
So,
I have a fence already,
Go ahead, Steve.
so a permit is required to reinstall that fence.
okay,
I do not have the authority to waive permit fees
okay.
as they are,
And
statutory
so I'm gonna get charged $500 per fee?
We can,
We have the authority to forgo anyone who had losses to that. So we will definitely in consideration to authorize anyone impacted by the flood that has to rebuild their property, that we will waive those. I gotta take a motion for that and get the board to agree to that. But I would make that motion that we do not charge anyone for a fee that flood was damaged by the recent storm of July 9th.
Thank you, that would be nice.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Further questions?
This still requires a permit to be filled out, just so we have on record that we still verify the police can follow the anytime that cost maybe we'll still.
Yeah, just so you know that, and yeah, you still have to do the paperwork.
Right, right. Okay, so then, and then you'll be able to tell me how high I can put it, what, perfect, thank you.
I just need a formal vote, and all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those abstaining, the ayes have it, so ordered, so thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
phone number for the Conservation District, for anybody that's interested, my phone just went dark, 610-372-4657. That information is available online as well.
All right, next sign in is Judy. Judy's down there. And we'll put that on the Muhlenberg Township website too, so.
Thank
a link to the Berks County.
Thank you very much.
I would like to suggest that the commissioners enact an ordinance that states between the curb and the sidewalk, you either have grass or cement. That's it. You have on the website, on the newsletter that we get in the spring, don't blow your grass in the street. Little pieces of grass. Can't blow it in the street. However, the old Borough Hall and the house beside it, which encompasses a whole half a block, that grass was dug out between the curb and the sidewalk. And stones were put in there, not big decorative stones, little pebbles that you put in your driveway. In August of 2020, they all washed out. They did again this time. In fact, if you talk to your road crew foreman, he will tell you that Sunday night at 10 o'clock, they had a dump truck a big front end loader, 4 guys with rakes, raking stones and putting them in the dump truck, and they were there for an hour. That should not be allowed. And if you want to know what it looks like, I have pictures on my phone that I can show you from this past weekend and the other. But when the stones wash out, they come down the street. The water is over the curb. It's in the yards across the street from us. The only way they can get it out is get down their hands and knees and pick it out because a grass rake won't do it. And that's ridiculous. That needs to be looked into because stones will do more harm to the sewer system than pieces of grass.
Thank you, Judy. We will take that under advisement and report back. Thank you. Next sign in is Mr. and Mrs. Hatton. You just signed in. You want to speak, Brett? Yeah.
For the conditional use, but,
Okay.
delayed that.
Thank you, Steve. Well, only if you want to speak.
Yes,
I have A. Smith, 2014. Georgia Road.
That's me. So, my issue is trivial to some of these other people, but I live on Georgia Road and continuously. The water from that road runs into my yard. My family's lived there 70 years, and in the past 10 years, or so, ever since, well, even the last flood that we had, where 2017, 2020, whatever it was. Like a river runs through my yard now, basically, destroying like the infrastructure of my yard and things. And again, just like you guys, they put little tiny, I don't know what they are, they're I don't know what they're called. Okay, whatever that is, thank you, sir. But can we get bigger rocks or maybe like some storm drains or something? So that it might like redirect, because a couple of years ago, they went through and they harvested a whole bunch of large oak trees. From the woods that surround my property. And 100-foot oaks suck up a lot of water, but when you don't have those oaks. Now, there's a whole lot more water coming down my mountain, down into, these guys and, I mean, my issue is trivial compared to you guys, but still in all, I mean, it stinks. And my other issue is, I saw on the website that they said put out your storm debris and your stuff. My basement, we had a sub pump fail. Guess what? We got water. It was 3/4 of the way finished. So my sisters and I spent days tearing out carpeting and padding and all kinds of everything else. And we did exactly what the township, I even called the township to ensure that I understood what I was reading correctly. I guess it was on the 14th or something like that. And they said, keep it separate from your other trash. They'll come on through on Friday, pick it up. They didn't come on Friday. They picked up my regular trash, they picked up my recycling, and picked that up. Called the township Friday afternoon. They said, oh, they're still working on it. We'll come out on Saturday. Waited all day Saturday. My trash is still sitting there. But, and we had to bag it up so that we could carry it. So it's bagged up and it's everything that was wet, the works. I called today and asked about it, and I was told that they're no longer doing it.
Okay, so Mascara will pick it up on their next regularly scheduled trash day.
So I have to wait until Friday now to keep all this stuff out in my yard. I mean, it looks terrible.
Yeah.
So I have to now privately pay to have it.
No, Mascara will take it. Mascara will take it.
On Friday, so I have to leave wet, nasty carpet, padding, everything that's already moldy and nasty out there. I mean.
Can you go get it? Doing it every day. Really full, we'll get there.
I don't mean to be ungrateful. I appreciate that. It's just that I was told one thing and then if I would have known that they weren't gonna do that, I would have gotten a truck and I would have taken down to the public dumpster.
Yeah.
And I was told that they were gonna come and now they didn't.
Sure.
So, and again, I'm sorry, guys. I don't mean to be trivial, but it's.
No,
It's not trivial, and I mean, it would have been in meetings before. I mean, we called Mascara on the carpet a number of times about issues over the years, picking up. It may just have been, the truck may have been full. I don't want to speak for Mascara. I don't know why it wasn't picked up. But, we'll do what we can to.
Yeah.
And if the water issue.
Yeah.
That's in her, just if the water issue could be looked at again,
Yeah.
maybe some bigger stone, maybe some redirection, maybe some sewer stuff, whatever. I mean, I have the biggest sub pumps I can get pretty much in my basement and they were unable to keep up after that one failed. So, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was 2014.
That's correct.
Yeah. 2011, 21. Kimberly Perez, Darby.
Oh, yes, hi, everyone.
Hello, welcome.
Well, I just moved out here, so I moved from New York, escaping Sandy storm devastation because of the flood. So welcome to Temple. I'm just trying to figure out, I've never owned a home, I've owned a condo, so this is all new to me, I don't know how this works. But I do know this, I was told that, you live in Temple, you should invest, get a sump pump, so I got a state-of-the-art sump pump, so that didn't work. I guess the actual water flow was so severe that it didn't handle it. So yes, I lost pretty much a lot of stuff in my basement. What my concern is now is like, if it's a brand new sump pump and it's not working, and I live on 620 Darby, and it's all the water stream is traveling downhill, and I live at the bottom. I'm getting the rush of all the rocks, debris, and all the new repairs of the sidewalks that they have, all of that. So all that force went inside my driveway, unfortunately, is facing downhill. So it went right in. I'm trying to figure out what kind of solutions can you guys possibly think of? My brother just looked at it, he's like, I don't know what to tell you, just close the wall, put a wall and just seal it, take the garage door out, I can't afford it. I don't know, I'm trying to come up, if you guys can tell me what solutions you guys can possibly come up with, how can you guys help us? Right now at the street where I live at, I was told that they're going to pave that whole entire street, Darby. It has a lot of poles, over 12, 19 inches, the tar just ripped off from the street, it's bad. So I'm wondering what kind of solutions can you guys possibly think of, if you can come over, take a look at it, give me ideas. I don't care, it's brand new garage door, I don't care, get rid of it, seal it, can the town help me do something? I did install the sump pump and it didn't work because the stream was so severe.
If I can certainly make, get your information, I can make arrangements for to take a look from a building perspective of what ideas you might be able to do as a homeowner. To mitigate some of that fire, some of that water damage.
And is FEMA going to eventually be involved and actually come and look at survey and see the damages, and does that look like it's gonna happen anytime soon, or is that gonna take a long time?
FEMA is involved, but there's a lot of steps that FEMA needs to take in order to be able, in order for them to be able to release any funds or to be able to even declare.
The Council Commonwealth and Washington, did I get it in that order?
You got it.
And we're working through that process now. Between Alice and I, we're completing the reports that we need to do for Muhlenberg Township. The county has compiled their first batch of reports and has submitted those to FEMA, or to the Commonwealth rather. So we're working through that process, but it's not a fast process. They're not going to be here
I
next.
dealt with that, I was homeless for a whole year in New York because FEMA took forever. And I didn't know where I was gonna sleep like the next day, so it's just like, oh, wow, now I'm here.
I think the fact that the governor came to the county, saw firsthand damages down in the Antietam area. I'm sure he was told, Mark Rossi, Senator Frank, informed him of the damages in Muhlenberg and all the other townships that was so hard to hit. I think the fact that the governor was here, I'm sure again, I can't speak for the governor's office, but I'm sure that there are a lot of phone calls being made.
Hopefully they'll
try to
expedite
fast track the information. The first thing that they need to do is they need to correlate the amount of damages, at least the estimated amount of damages, money wise, to be able to get to FEMA, so they can make those decisions.
Yeah, because the problem that I'm not sure if others are facing it, I called the home insurance and I thought I was covered and they said that this is not a flood zone. So I am not covered for nothing. I was like, if I would have known this, then I would have bought it. Because, oh, you don't need to buy flood insurance. This is not a flood zone. Surprise. So, yeah. So if you guys can come over and give me an idea, will you guys let us know and inform us what FEMA is basically telling you guys?
Our website will update as we have information. Yes.
All right,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Next, Sue Swavely.
Also, sorry, thank you. I'm sorry, one last question. How many bags am I allowed to take out from mascara to pick up? Because some people tell me different information. They say 6, 5, 9. What is
Eight.
so it's eight including the recycle, like, so if I put, let's say, 6 regular, then I have to put 8
bags you're recycling and 1 bulk item per week.
So, 8 regular garbage, 1 recycle, and 1 regular furniture.
1 bulk item, yeah. It's like.
Oh. Oh, that's even better than what I thought, all right.
Hello, my name is Sue Swagley. I'm a 32-year resident here in Muhlenberg Township, all at 1213 Riverview Drive. My husband Gary is actually the solicitor here for many years in Muhlenberg Township. We have a little bit different issue going on Riverview Drive and Eagles Landing. While I can sympathize and empathize with these people who have had flood damage, we have had sewage backup. The first 30 years that I lived in Eagles Landing, I didn't have 1 drop of water from any storm at any time. I talked to Mr. Jenkins, the engineer at the Water Authority, and he asked me, how about during this storm? Nope, not a drop. How about during Hurricane Floyd when it took out Felix Dam? Not a drop. No water, no sewage, nothing. I have never had water damage in my house until August 2nd, 2020. And it wasn't just a flood, it was a sewage backup. And I literally had raw sewage running through the entire lower floor of my home, which caused, I needed a restoration company to come in, rip up all my floors, rip up all the baseboards, cut the drywall 12 inches high because the walls, the water comes up the sewage, and anything that touches sewage, it's not like just water, it has to be removed. Furniture that it's porous has to be removed. Okay, so $20-some thousand later, okay, we were back in good shape. We spoke to Mr. Calpino. Now I know he's the manager for the Water Authority, but I also know that you created the Water Authority and you appointed all the supervisors at the Water Authority. So you have a working relationship with them. Mr. Calpino at the time told my husband this was the once in 100-year event. I know you don't want to talk about that. And I understand that. However, we are less than 3 years since that time. And it's all over again, a sewage backup for 2.5 hours. I have a bathroom on my lower level, poured out of the toilet for 2.5 hours straight, raw sewage. Okay, that's disgusting. And again, restoration company, my entire lower floor is completely destroyed. Okay, so we are in Eagles Landing. We have our kind of like a private pumping station. It services Eagles Landing, plus what I'm told by Mr. Jenkins, a few homes on Pine Heights that they were required to join the sewer rather than have septic tanks. So I know we have the lowest flow of water in our pumping station. So my question is, okay, this is less than 3 years since the first time. Something has changed. I have the 3 houses up from the pumping station. They have a river of water flowing through their yards. And then we have 3 neighbors, and 2 of them are here, Jack and Diane Pennington, and then Ann Rosenberg is upstream. The 3 houses below the pumping station all have sewage backups. The other ones have flooding from the river flowing through. So something has changed, and I don't know what that is. And Mr. Jenkins said I can build a pumping station of my own. Well, is that my responsibility? I pay taxes, I pay my sewage bill. Isn't my expectation, a reasonable expectation that the township would work on my behalf not to have sewage in my home? I would think so. So something's changed. I don't know what. I don't know if it requires an emergency pump. I don't know how old. We've been there 32 years. So is the equipment 32 years old? Does it need an update? Do we need an emergency pump? And I know these are questions for the authority, and I know their meeting is on August 10th, and I'm going there too. Has the pipeline been cambered to see if there's any problem with it? These are the questions I have. I mean, flooding is awful. I've been through that. I grew up in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. I was involved in one of the 3 great floods in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Flooding's terrible. Sewage is disgusting and nobody should have to clean up their home.
So
from sewage
I,
backup.
I hear everything you're saying, and I really feel for you, and you will get an answer for us. We're going to look more into this problem as to what is causing all this rainwater to get into the sewage system to back everything up. I mean, I was down at Warren Creek, and there's a big area there that's storm manhole cover that was blown off. The whole Warren Creek was going into that, which went down to the sewage pumping station. And we notified them today because it's over at this golf course. But we as this board have to get more knowledge as to what's going on. We'll look into your situation and we will get back to you.
I don't know if it's an I situation.
Right. Well, and
But something has changed, because for 30 years we had nothing.
And so just so I can, and that's the first I've heard of it, that you guys had that problem with sewage, but to Commissioner Wolfinger's point is, we had this last flood, and we're gonna talk about it a little later, but in my belief, the situation that you're experiencing and other homeowners, our township authority has dropped the ball. Because you shouldn't have to be dealing with this stuff. We should understand what maintenance is going on, why all this stormwater is getting the sewer system. And we understand the responsibility that we have as board members now. We gave them a chance after last month to go out and hopefully fix some of these problems, but nothing seems to be done or accomplished with it. And I think every one of us, and who's not here, understands that. It's gonna take the appropriate action to try to remedy it so we can get a little more control, because you're not the only one that has had some sewage problems also, and we're not happy with the answers we're getting from the authorities.
I'm not getting it there. I did get a call from Mr. Jenkins, but Mr. Calpino never called me back.
Don't join the club. He doesn't call us back either.
The other thing, Sue, is I want to look into the possibility of getting some way, those check valves, wherever for your system, maybe the township, the authority can accommodate you financially in some way of putting some device in which doesn't allow the backflow of sewage in the home. I mean, that seems, if you're a problem, if you're in a low area, you should be, the authority, in my opinion, should come to you and say, we should try this. That rather than have 2 of these situations in so soon. My plumber's in the back there, Jack Steiner, he has the same problem. I told him to look into putting some device.
It's an expensive thing to do,
Well,
but I looked into it.
there's
And after you spend $20,000 to remedy your house, and you're assured it's a once in 100-year event. Okay,
maybe it's not a once in a 100 years.
obviously, it's,
So we'll get back.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who we got here? Is that you, Bill? Still there? No, you're good. Chris?
Yeah, I'm good.
You're good, Chris? Diana Jack Pennington?
Good evening, everybody. Jack Pennington. I've lived next door to Sue Swavely for 30 years. Same story with no flooding issues, even though we live along the river. I came to the board approximately 11 years ago, right when I started my business, when I was put in the floodplain because the river was remapped. At that time, I was told Muhlenberg Township did not do their due diligence and notify DEP of the change of the flood of the waterways by the dam being breached. So I was just starting my business. I didn't have any time to deal with all the logistics of dealing with the government. Mark Rossi came to my house and told me he was going to see through working through with the government. About a month later, he said, I don't handle that. So I was back up with no help. The river came up about 6 feet. I'm in floodplain now. I don't know how many other people are or not, but I need to know when the state's going to remap so it can be remapped properly with Muhlenberg Township notifying them of the proper changes in the waterways since the breach of the dam, number one. Number two, just to voice my concern over the sewer issues, because my sewer backed up also, along with my other neighbor. I'm in the middle between Sue and the Augies. Anita Augie just lost her husband in January, so she wasn't even home. Her basement's destroyed also. This is thousands and thousands of dollars that come out of our pockets or our insurance company, because the township isn't overseeing proper infrastructure that the sewer system should be able to handle at this point. If they're gonna engineer development and okay, a development to go in, and we pay our taxes and our sewer bills and our water bills, you know, again, freak things happen, but like Sue said, this is twice in 3 years. Are we supposed to just, every time it happens, wake up in the middle of the night fearful that our basements are gonna get destroyed? You know, again, there's a lot of flooding that happened, and I don't wanna make light of everybody else's concerns, but we wouldn't have been scathed if the sewer system would have worked properly.
Sure.
So,
Also, Jack, I just want to make sure they understand, the river came up 6 feet, but we did not flood.
yeah, they put us in the floodplain, and through the worst storm we've seen in how long, the river only came up 6 feet, didn't even crest over the bank. So the whole floodplain, and I know that's not your deal, that's DEP or the state.
But they issued to DEP a map of the river that had the dam in, because they didn't want to pay the money to redo it.
Well, right, because you didn't,
We wouldn't be in the flood.
somebody here dropped the ball within the
I
township.
don't believe that's true, but, I think that
Well,
was
look
because
into
the
it. Go ahead.
the shed or something, but the dam was agreed, I don't remember off the top of my head. But it wasn't leaving. I put the dam up tomorrow again, but that's a different story, but yeah, we're gonna look into it, as we mentioned that Mrs. Slavely, but.
Okay, well, that's the sewer end of it, but we also need to look into the river when it's gonna be remapped again.
That I'm not.
FEMA performs those revisions if they have the updated maps. So we've had some subdivisions in the past 5 or 6 years that have needed those very similar LOMARs or letter of map revisions based on fill usually. So that is all sent to FEMA. So FEMA handles that process. And when FEMA revises the map, how often they do that, I can't say. I know the last one was done in 2012. But how often they do that, I can't say, but we can at least follow up and be sure that they have the current map for that stretch of the river.
Okay,
And paying the dam.
I'll follow up again in a few months then and see if that's all been handled.
Give me a call, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Barry Cataldi, 1810 Mount Morrow Road.
I lived there for 26 years. When we first moved in, the creek was nice and dredged. It was beautiful. Over the years, it just keeps falling in. I call the township. It's not our problem. It's the Corps of Engineers' problem. It's not our problem. It's the DEP's problem. Nobody wants to do anything. I now have lost a driveway.
Well, Mrs. Cataldi, I don't think you heard no one wants to do anything. I think we expressed to you
But
that
26 years?
If we could do what we would have to do to Commissioner Wolfenger's point, we would do it if we were able to do it. But we don't have the authority or the ability to go in and dredge the stream and to do those things. So,
Whose responsibility is it?
well, my understanding is it's DEP and the state's responsibility, right?
DEP issues the permits to perform the work. Ultimately, for my, again, I know unpopular statement,
Yeah.
right? I know that it is. But ultimately, it's a non-navigable body of water that comes down to the property owner themselves. And I know it was been done in the past, and Commissioner Malinowski made the statement about either Laurel Run Creek, and I know they did try to do it at Bernhardt's as well. And when that happens, those entities that are supposed to be giving permission and designing the work.
I mean, the last time in what, 2020, $5,000 to fix my driveway. I mean, I don't have a driveway. I'm using the neighbors to get out of my house. You know, is there gonna be any kind of assistance to help any of us?
Again, we're waiting for the FEMA response, unfortunately.
And how long is that gonna take?
We can't answer. We're not, we're doing everything that we can possibly do Now, what I would say is, we will bend the ears of our representatives in Harrisburg to the best of our abilities. I'm sure that Mark Rossi is fielding tons of calls. I would think that Judy Schwank is also fielding calls. And those are the people that need to move to DEP.
Okay,
Well, we'll call them again. I called the senator and I told her the problem we had. And I expect to take her down and show her the creek area. And I like told them.
Okay,
I just have a quick question. If you're all signed in, let us go down the list of everybody who signed in. And then anybody that has questions who has not had an opportunity to speak, we'll open the floor so that.
I signed in and skipped my time.
oh, they did.
I did sign in and skip my time. You have anything to say?
Okay.
I did. But I want to talk about that.
I'm sorry, your name again, please?
Chris Nappy. Yep.
Thank you.
I appreciate your statement about, I'm gonna say I appreciate it, it's teacher and me. That the person who has the creek is responsible for it, but you own the park.
Right,
That's where I get confused, because the park across the street from my house, I live directly across from Laurel Run Creek. Where Laurel Run and Heen Avenue come together. That's your park, which means you own that creek.
Sure do. Yep, and so my,
Then why can't you, if it was in my backyard and I dredged it, you couldn't do anything about it. If you own that one, why can't you dredge it?
because DEP won't issue the permits to dredge it. That was the statement I made earlier, where we,
But you
hang on, hear me out. Where we applied for funding to restore 1,000 linear feet of stream bank. It took 2 years for us to receive the permit to perform what they call stream bank restoration and a riparian forest buffer. They will not permit, they would not permit a dredging of the stream.
Why?
But it's your property.
It doesn't matter if it's our property or not.
But if it was in my backyard, I'd be responsible to maintain it.
You would be responsible for maintaining it.
But it's in your backyard that's affecting my.
But you would still need to get a permit from DEP to do the work.
Correct.
That's what we're saying. You would
So
still,
it's not your.
they could still deny you a permit in your own backyard to do the work on the water.
I
That's what
appreciate,
we're
you
saying.
understand where my confusion comes from?
Well,
If
that's,
it
we're
was on
trying
my
to
property,
alleviate
I'd
that
have to-
confusion. We're answering that as Jim just mentioned, is even if you as homeowners apply, they may not give you the appropriate permit to do the work. Just as we've talked about for the township, they only told us what we could and couldn't do. We can't go in and override them to do it. So if you walk upstairs here, maybe you can get support with the state that we can do that stuff. That would solve a lot of problems. Right now, we can't do it. Mr. Knapp, to answer your question, as a homeowner, you may get the same response. They may say no.
If you went, if the creek was in your property and you went in and did what you want to do with that creek, you would get sued, like.
Wow. We get what?
So it's fine. It is fine.
But that's not true. We were told in 2020 by the EPA that we are, as homeowners that live within a certain distance from the creek, that we can manipulate the creek as we see fit, prevent flooding to our residents and protect our investment. As long as we're not redirecting floodwater onto someone else's property, then it becomes a FEMA problem.
We're not here to give you legal advice on that. That's what you were told. We can't respond to that. That's what you're told. I hear you.
It's like people are being told different things.
No, we're all telling you the exact same thing. We're telling you who's responsible, and you have to apply for a DEP permit. And what happens, unfortunately, when we tried to do it twice, because of this happening, a resident from across the township calls DEP and they fine us. That's what happens. Someone calls and says they're in the creek, you gotta get out of there, make sure they have the right permit, correct? That's what happens. Unfortunately, that's how people are. So if you don't have to, Mr. Knapp's point, if you have to go through the process with DEP anywhere near that waterway, my understanding, I'm not an expert in it, but that's what we're being told and what we do, and our legal advice is we can't do it unless we get the appropriate authority and permit by DEP. That's what we're told. To your point, it is in our backyard, but to what Jim said, they wouldn't even allow us to go in to that creek. So that's just the truth. I don't know what else we can really elaborate.
Are you applying for permits now? To deal with this?
On Muhlenberg Township property, yes, we are.
Yes, okay.
That's correct, yes. They're ongoing. The project should let this fall, actually.
So just to clarify, that's township property, not all the property within Muhlenberg Township, like including us. That's just township, public property.
Correct.
All right, moving on to Hain Avenue, I believe. John Green, Hain Avenue, Mr. Green.
First of all, I don't work for this girl, I just got a t-shirt and like. Did I hear earlier, good evening, everyone, did I hear earlier you were waiving permits? Is that,
For those affected.
well, I hear, yeah, I just put a,
Fees, not the permit.
oh, the fees for the permit.
Yes.
I just had a water heater put in. Now, I guess I had to pay for that permit. Am I gonna get reimbursed or, how does that work?
We'll have to look logistically how we do that, but if it was a result of the flood damage, then we'll have to rely on our codes department to see if we can get that reimbursed.
Who should I keep in touch with?
If your contractor yourself has picked up or purchased a permit already,
I got the my receipts and everything that, you know, I paid for it.
stop in the customer service department, see the customer service representative, let them know this is during flood damage. They'll get that address, they'll pass it on to all of us, and we'll re-sign off on it, let finance know they.
Okay, now, is that gonna be in a gift card or how do I get that money?
You'll receive a check from the township, but there is a process, so
Thank
it
you.
could take a week or so, but, once you get in your paperwork, push through the system.
Part of that, it is.
Thank you.
I'm this screen, and he doesn't work from the staff.
Excuse me, folks, would you, we can't hear up here either, so if you could. Mr. Green, did you have something to say? Oh, she said it. Okay. All right, Terry Wartzenloff at 620 El Hacker Drive.
You're not gonna get a break from the flood talk. So I live on the corner of El Hatco and Casa Grande, right on the corner. That is a drain off. Okay, from flood waters, rainwaters, whatever. So we have a problem. No, you've always taken care of it up until the last 5 or 6 years. We're there 18 years. Now, all of a sudden, you tell me that this monstrosity is the railroad's problem. Hey, buddy, this is Murphy, by the way. However, there is a sign right here that says no dumping, no depositing of animal litter, $1,000 fine, Muhlenberg Township Commissioners. This affects my property. It affects the bug bites on my grandchildren. I called the railroad. The railroad told me 25 feet on each side of their tracks is what they're responsible for. And I want to know who's going to clean this up because I'm sick of it. This is ridiculous. I email, I call, they ignore me. I got one response. It's the railroad's problem. Why?
We'll look into it.
They're 7 feet tall. They're affecting my property.
We have a boom mower that'll knock them down in no time flat.
There's all kinds, there's this DB, use your imagination what that means, 2 doors up from me that has illegal vehicles next to there. He parks them there all the time. The police are all, you know this, they're there all the time. He has debris back there. He has car parts back there. There's a pallet sitting there up against the,
And hence the sign, right?
hence the sign.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Muhlenberg Township.
Well, Muhlenberg Township was doing their
I
best.
spoke to the
keep
realty
dumping.
department from the railroad, and they said it's Muhlenberg Township's problem. I don't care whose problem it is, I want it taken care of. This is ridiculous. This baby has so many bug bites on him with tons of bug spray on, he can't even play in his own backyard. Which brings me to the DB 2 doors down. I call codes all the time. Illegal cars next to my house, illegal cars in front of my house, illegal cars in his backyard. He has a pool in his backyard filled with car parts. Behind that, right next to the tracks, he has a car that is gutted. He has like 14 cars in his backyard. Nobody comes back and says anything to me from codes. I email them every week.
Can you see that from your backyard, from your?
Oh, I have pictures.
Okay, so what we need is, we need to be able to see that. If we can't see that from the road, then we can't do anything.
If it weren't for them, oh, you can see it from the road.
Okay.
But if it was not for the police department, they put red stickers. There was 5 of them 2 weeks ago. Red stickers on all the vehicles to get them off, to get them out of there. He gets them out, brings them back 2 days later. It's a problem.
Process too.
It is.
That's
What's the address of the problem property?
He is 616. El Hatco, yeah, and we're on the corner, right there on the corner of 620. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, come on, Murph, let's go.
Next is Joe Whitehead, 824 Tuckerton Avenue.
Yes, is there anything that the board could suggest, that we could do as a community of voters to influence the decision makers to help you do what you want to do? That you can either, we can help you, you can or help us organize, or that you would suggest we organize on our own, that we can try to, make some influence on the political level. Thanks.
Great question.
The first thing that I tell people, and I've said this publicly multiple times. If the only time you ever come to one of these meetings is when you're angry or you have a problem that you think is not being resolved, you are missing half of your government in action. There's a lot of information that passes back and forth in these meetings all the time. We do our very best. This is not a county commissioner position. This is not a full-time position for us. But all of us that you have elected and those that we have appointed to fill elected members who are no longer on this board spend a lot of hours working on your behalf that you don't see behind the scenes. I took off work Monday afternoon to drive around a lot of the affected areas. I met with some of the neighbors on Rising Sun. I got out, I walked through the mud, I was watching Jeremy will tell you, I showed up in a suit and tie. I was walking through, I was talking to the neighbors out there, trying to make sure that, they knew either they had the forms to fill out or they knew where to go to get the forms and what they needed to do to get information. I mean, I couldn't see everybody. I was down on Water Street for a while. I know Commissioner Wolfinger was out. Mr. Malinowski was out. I'm not sure. Okay, but again, you have to understand that, for us, these are part-time jobs. Our staff was out. Our staff, Jim, was working round the clock. So the best thing that I can tell you is the first thing you should be doing is come to these meetings. Come to these meetings every month or every other month. Come when we have our budget meeting. Those are all important meetings. The next thing you need to do is you need to get on the phone and you need to talk to the representatives in Harrisburg. You need to let them know how frustrated you are when there are things that we can't do. And we say publicly that we can't do, to help them understand your frustration too. Because they're not here. They're not here, they're not seeing it, they're not hearing it firsthand. I highly doubt they're gonna go watch a replay of this later on. But that's what you need to do. You need to be as vocal with them as you are with us. And I know, and I know you're gonna laugh. When I say that you need to trust us, that we are going to do everything that we can possibly do, we do. We seriously, we take this job very, very seriously. We take your trust in us extremely seriously. I didn't run for this office to come here and get beaten up when there are floods. I understand the frustration. I have not had sewer backup in my home here. I had sewer backup in my home in the city. I understand that. I had water seeping through my wall in my city home. I understand what happens when flood water gets there. So I do understand those things. So we do our very best. How to help you get organized? I know that there are public ways to do that, social media. That's a great forum too. But if you're only using social media to complain back and forth to each other, or to make comments that you think this board isn't doing anything on your behalf, then those messages go nowhere. So I appreciate you coming. I want to hear your complaints. I want to hear your aggravation. But you also have to make sure that those things are being directed also to the people who are sitting in the seats, who are working in Harrisburg and can make some of those changes. That's the best advice that I can offer you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Can't you as the board be the liaison for us?
We do, we do, actually, we constantly, I mean, honestly, because they hear it from us, it's better if you're all in a group and they hear it from you, because for us, it doesn't seem to carry as much gravity as it does if they were to sit here and listen to you, that's been my experience. And, you know, we're doing some things for your particular problem, Sue, I think that hopefully we can have a little more handle on some of the water and sewer issues that we just don't know because of the authority, quite frankly. So some of those things will work, but advocacy is just, you know, we're doing it hourly for numerous things. From fire to police to grants. I mean, how many grants have we gotten on the stream bed, on Laurel Run every year, trying to get more money, approval, all the things we're trying to do. We do it, to Commissioner Lurch's point, every day to get businesses in to do, believe me. And my biggest passion is economic development. You think I want them to bring in a developer, who finally NGK goes up and they can't get a glass of water at Shell's? You know, they're gonna walk down to the next community. I mean, so we're constantly advocating on your behalf, and that's the best way you can help us. It is, to Mr. Whitehead's point, is you gotta help allow us to impact your life more than just having to go to the state for everything. And that's we're so frustrated on your behalf, but with especially this, because it is the second time that this happened. Now, there are historic floods, keep in mind, we can never say.
I lived on Riley Central for 20 years,
Okay,
okay? And this didn't happen until a development was put on Hay Road. That's what it's like before. There's no stormwater management whatsoever. Now they want to put a development on Sir Franklin Road. And all that water is going to come down onto Mount Laurel and Rising Avenue also. And that's your fault for letting it happen.
I appreciate the time, and it's our fault. That's your opinion, I appreciate that, okay? Next, Amy, Amy, well, not.
Hello, I'm Amy Beck from 1812 Mount Laurel Road. Most of these people are our neighbors and friends now. These are your taxpayers and your residents. Why are they helping us? What are you guys doing? Everybody here looks freshly showered, slept. I'm sorry you had to walk in some mud. We're living in mud. Living in it. We've had no running water. We have no driveway. We have no yard. I've seen some of your faces at our house. I appreciate you coming, but I haven't heard from anybody. I see some of you smirking during this conversation everybody's trying to have. It's not a laughing matter or even a smiling matter. We're suffering. We haven't taken off work. We can't get to work. We have no vehicles. The fire department couldn't get to us the next day because they couldn't access our homes. Send a helicopter to our home. How are you supposed to help anybody if you can't get to their homes, if there's an emergency, if there's a fire, if someone's having a heart attack, if you can't get to us? And I haven't heard from anybody. We were given some water. I appreciate it. That's how we're flushing our toilets, is with a hose. For a week, we haven't showered, nothing. He's taking showers in the creek, in the creek. Is he gonna get fined for that? Because this is ridiculous. You're telling us we can't, you're telling us our responsibility, but then we can't touch it. And then we have to get permits, this, that, and the other thing, but it could take 2 years. What if there's another flood again and we're washed away? You know what we did Saturday night? We slept in our living room with our dogs, with a window open, with a ladder, so we could escape if we had to. We sat there with flashlights watching the creek. When you guys came to our house, there was no active river flowing through the yards anymore because we paid $10,000 to push the rocks up to stop it from flowing. We had PennDOT at our house. We had the senator at our house for 2 hours. You were there for 2 hours. I haven't heard from anybody. Senator called me Saturday at my home.
Excuse me, ladies, we can't hear this back here. Excuse me, if you need to talk, please go outside so we can hear.
We heard from the senator on Saturday. I was like, wow, she's calling me on a Saturday. That's cool. Maybe I'll hear some good news. I said to her, my concern is this flooding that's supposed to come tonight. Totally glazed over that comment. Question I asked, said, you need to go to the resource center today. Today's the last day. I'll be back in touch with you. Nothing. I haven't heard from anybody. Nobody.
I wanna
I'm
know
hearing
what's,
from all of these people coming down my driveway. Do you need help? Do you need water? Dropping off dog food, bringing us food, meals. We're sitting in our homes suffering, and nobody's helping. Nobody. Where is everybody? And I understand there's steps to go through, but we are your taxpayers and your residents. I mean, what's going on? I don't understand.
I wanna know what's gonna happen when people start dying. And
Why?
what are you gonna say then? Are you gonna sit up here and smirk? And are you gonna laugh? Or is this serious? I mean, if you need a helicopter to come rescue people, you're just gonna do that every week? Something's gotta be done. You know what I did? I'm a plumber. I had bulldozers and backhoes on my property, re-diverting the creek back to where it was supposed to go, instead of running through my house. And I'm trying to be respectful. I apologize for me getting excited, okay? But if you need a helicopter to come to your house and everybody's house in the street because the ambulance and the fire people can't get to there, that's a big issue. And I just feel like you guys are just waiting for the next one. And what are you gonna do? Are you gonna sit up here at the same time and say, oh, well, we're sorry that your mom died, we're sorry that your children died because nobody pulled the trigger? I pulled the trigger, I got it done in 1 day, 2 days to fix that creek. Nobody thanked me for fixing their road,
You know what we were
because the
offered?
creek was running over the road.
We were offered a contractor from you guys that we had to pay for. That's what
To
we were
fix
offered.
to fix your
After we
problem
already
and your
had
road.
people in there, so I don't understand.
That's a slap in my face.
Just come over there and just push it. Give us some reassurance that we're gonna be okay, that help's on the way. Check on us. Say, I'm sorry, I don't have an update, but I wanted to make sure you're okay. I shouldn't have to reach out
Even
to
a phone
anybody.
call to say, are you safe? Are you okay today? Nothing.
There was no preparations in place for Saturday night either into Sunday, if there was another flood. What would have happened if that berm that we had pushed up just to make that water not come over collapsed again and was worse? No preparations offered to any residents or reaching out. You know how many people I've talked to that didn't even know to go onto the website to report their damages that I told to report it? They had no idea. What about elderly people that are stuck in their home with no driveway, that don't use the internet or can't get out to ask for help, or don't have family around, or they lost their phone lines and they can't reach anybody? Are you knocking on these people's doors to make sure they're okay? Are you driving by going, that house looks really bad, let me go check and make sure somebody's okay in there? No, nobody, no, nothing. It took 2 or 3 days for anybody to even come to our house. I heard from PennDOT, we're gonna help you. I heard from the center, we're gonna help you. I heard from everybody, we're gonna help you. Nothing. Why are we paying to move the creek back where it was? I don't understand. I mean, we're out all this money. We haven't been to work. We can't go to work. We have no vehicles. And we can't even get a rental car right now because we can't afford it, because we had to save our home for something that we shouldn't have to do. And I'm worried that you guys aren't gonna be able to get to us if there's another emergency. I mean, did any of you have to sleep with a ladder next to your window Saturday night? Were you up for 38 hours because there was a flood watch that you were worried that you were gonna have to escape and run up a mountain to wait for help? No, that's insane. We shouldn't be doing that. We're all taxpayers. You should have our backs. We shouldn't have to call this person and that person. And you shouldn't tell us that the creek is our responsibility and then in the same sentence, tell us we can't go in there and touch it. I don't understand. If I'm misunderstanding, explain it to me, because I mean, maybe it's going over my head.
The rules aren't any different for you than they are for us. We own the creek. We own the creek
Okay.
in Muhlenberg Township property. We've spent 2 years, and I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars applying for permits to be able to do work there. The rules are the same for us as they are for you.
You saw the mountain behind our house
I did.
and how it collapsed. It sent a mudslide through our home. It's gonna keep happening.
And that's,
Every time it rains, a little bit more, a little bit more.
and
I
that
can't
mountain's
keep,
on private property.
I understand that, but then you tell us we can't go in there and do anything. And what are we supposed to do? That mountain wasn't even there before when we lived. It was way over there. And now that's all we can see from our windows is this huge collapsed mountain that every time it rains, it's just gonna keep happening. Even if it's little rain, a lot of rain, and it's just gonna keep happening. And then you expect everybody to be able to afford to pay for this.
Okay, so Mrs. Beck, To be clear on a number of points. Nobody's sitting up here smirking at anybody's misery out here. The things that
I
were
saw
said
it.
are funny that people laugh at. Nobody is sitting up here smirking at anybody.
You're not seeing what we're seeing, okay? You're sitting there, we're looking up here, we're seeing this.
And by telling you that I took time from work to go out to visit neighbors, I'm not trying to say that.
No,
I'm not trying to say that I'm in a better position. I'm not trying to say that, hey, you know what, I didn't get hurt and I walked through some life. I'm not trying to belittle this at all. I'm trying to tell you that your government, your local government was out in your community doing the things that it could. Our roads crew were out clearing debris. Our office staff was in here fielding calls. Jim, our township manager, took himself away from his family on the weekend. He was out visiting people.
But that's
We were
his
out-
job.
That's
That's
his
his
job.
And that's what we were doing. We were doing, folks. We understand the frustration, believe me. We do, and we're hearing your comments, and we are formulating what we need to do next. And we have looked at this. In regards to the weather on, that was supposed to come Saturday night and Sunday, we were talking to each other. We did talk to our roads foreman. Our public works was ready to be in action should there have been another storm. Our fire chief, our police chief, they knew that what the weather was. We were talking to each other to be
I
prepared.
know, but you're not talking to us, you're not giving, you know what, we had a lawyer call and speak to the police department, and then they put him on the phone with someone else, I'm not gonna say who. But she asked, what are you reassuring these residents? If she didn't get anywhere, there was no, our sandbags would be provided, this is gonna be provided, do you have a plan? Nothing, we were told nothing. Who are we supposed to reach out to when we're concerned or we're worried? Like, who do we call? If, when somebody calls, we don't get any answers, or we just get pushed to the side. I mean, if I'm telling Judy, I'm worried about this storm, and she says, go to the resource center, what are they supposed to do for me? I mean, and it was great, we did get some resources from there, but that didn't reassure me that night. And we stayed up for 38 hours and then had to get up even after that and still go down in our basement and get mud out and try to get some water so we can get back to living, you know, our lives. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I want some reassurance that something's being done, and I don't want to be told that we have to do it. Because this is your township. You should be doing this stuff for us. You should be representing all of us. You should be going to bat and fighting for us. Not telling us, oh, it's only gonna happen once every 100,000 years or whatever, because it keeps happening. Every time we get a little bit of rain, our yard floods, every time. It could be a little bit of rain, it could be a whole lot of rain. This was scary. We thought we were going to die. People shouldn't be getting pulled out of their homes with their grandkids. People shouldn't be waiting on their second floor for helicopters to come get them. By the time they got there, the water had already started receding. Our house could have been gone by the time they got there. And I understand you couldn't get there with high vehicles or your whatever, your rescue vehicles or by foot. Okay, well, there should have been a plan in place. It should have never happened if there was a plan in place years ago and taken care of when we had the last flood, that mountain collapsed, and now it's barely there anymore. So I'm just trying to figure out where we go from here. I don't want to sit in my house for another week with no water, waiting to take a shower, missing my job. I have no car. I drive 200 miles a day for work, and I now have no vehicle to do that. I can't keep pushing it off. I'm gonna lose my job. I don't know what you want me to do, and nobody's reaching out to us. I mean, has anybody heard from anybody here? It just seems crazy to me. I don't know. I don't even know what else to say, because I feel like I've said it all and nobody it still feels like you have nothing to say. You're just trying to tell us like it's a runaround. You're running us around, and then we're gonna go home and nothing's gonna be done, and we're gonna wait for the next flood and hope we don't die. That's all I have to say. I don't know what else to say.
Thank you, and sorry.
Erica Vinsky, organizer.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you.
My question is, what are we doing to develop in ways that remediate this stormwater problem? Or at least do not exacerbate it. The gentleman back here brought up about the issue of development. I live across from the Muhlenberg Swim Association, so you know, it's a giant parking lot, and every time we have one of these, I'm gonna say it, 50-year floods, that's happened 3 times in as many years now. That becomes a giant lake, and I look out my window when I'm not busy bailing sewage out of my basement and say, what if that was a giant retention basin? Or what if there were storm swales in that space instead of an impervious parking lot, so that all the water is now running onto Darby Avenue and onto Water Street on the other side of the creek? You know, if we can't dredge the creek, if that's illegal and off the table, what are some other creative and cost-effective solutions that we could come up with as a community to ameliorate this problem going forward? Because I love my home, I love this community, I don't want to leave it, but I am thinking about that at this time. So thank you.
The best thing that you can do is come to a planning commission meeting. The statements that were made about developments that don't have stormwater improvements are out and out falsifications. That is entirely not true. I can assure you that every subdivision or every commercial property that is developed in the last 20+ years have had stormwater improvements installed in them. The stormwater improvements, are they capable? Are they designed to withstand the storm that we saw on Sunday? They are not. It's not practical. It's not effective. There is no installation of a stormwater BMP that will satisfy, that will retain that volume of water. I encourage you to come to planning commission meetings to talk about those processes. The ordinances are in place to require those stormwater BMPs to be installed at any subdivision or land development project that occurs in the township. The ordinances exist. Planning commissions are the 3rd Wednesday of the month. There's actually one this coming Wednesday. And we're talking about a land development project that is very near to the Laurel Run Creek and the regulated floodway and floodplain. It's a very intense conversation.
Thank you. I will plan to be there on Wednesday. Do we have engineers looking at our current situation now and formulating solutions? Or if we don't, are there grants available so we can hire engineers, environmental engineers to come and take a look at our situation?
So again, every subdivision or land development project that is submitted to the township is reviewed per the ordinances, and it must comply with the ordinances. So yes, the engineers, not every single day, but yes, every single application that comes along, they're reviewing that, yes.
I guess I was thinking more big picture, not individual projects, but like, you know, a more community-wide solution. Like, you know, we're talking a lot about dredging the creek. You know, that sounds like it's part of the solution. This sounds like it's a very complex problem that's going to have multiple solutions. Yeah. So what else other than dredging the creek? What else is on the table? Have there been any other ideas put forward?
There are several FEMA grants that are available. Unfortunately, they are very difficult to acquire. We do look at them when they become available, and if they're applicable to the township. We've applied for several $1 million worth of funding over the course of the last 15 years. And so when we have the ability to apply for funding to be able to do those things, we do that.
Thank you.
Young lady, you have to leave. You wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, actually, I don't have a question. I have something to address.
Okay.
Because I'm a disabled person. I'm very sick, God knows. I am a sick person. I live in an apartment, 2520 Kutztown Road. I have pictures. God knows I took every picture I could take. I had a basement full of water. I couldn't get down the steps. My legs hurt every day. Every day, my God knows. these legs hurt every day. That's why I'm a walker. I can't travel steps like I want to. My boyfriend came over. No, my boyfriend came out of the hospital. He was in the hospital. He couldn't breathe. So after the hospital released him, we came home. A half an hour later, that water was above my car tires. We was in the kitchen praying. Praying that God, please stop this water. Every time, like that young lady said, where's she at? Every time it rains, it pours. And it goes in that creek. There's a building that's across the street from me. I sit in my car and I look at these guys. They go to work. They come in at 8 and they leave at 5. And these guys, I've been over several times talking to them. Please do something about your creek. My landlord spends $6,000 per water thing to heat the hot water. This is 2 times. $6,000 to get a new one. 6,000, and he's complaining. To me, I'm going through it, y'all. I can't keep going through this. This gotta end. I know. Then my boyfriend comes in, talks to some guy named Jeff about his vehicle. This happened the last storm. His car is destroyed. Once your car is flooded, it's done. You can't get it fixed. There's no mechanic on the face of this earth can fix a car that's been through a flood. And there's none.
Could we have your?
My boyfriend's car, nobody, no, I repeat my words. Nobody came to my door and asked me, do I need help from him? Nobody. This storm, I called 911, asked fire people, could they come and get this water out of my bay? It took them hours to get here. Hours. Then they want to say something to me about, well, if you this, that, and the other. Come on, this is my life. We have a life here. This flood that just happened, that was a life-death situation. We could have died in that water if the rain wouldn't have stopped. Could have died. Don't nobody want to go through this storm. There's more storms coming, y'all. Get ready, get prepared. Because there's some more coming. My God,
What your name, please?
my name is Tina Caraway. Like I said, I'm begging y'all, please do something. Talk to somebody, get them to get that creek, take it out, put some cement in it or do something. The guys across the street, it's like, it took them forever to try to get this debris out of the creek. They had a bulldozer over there, some guys over there, and they was trying to get the debris out of the creek. Once that water comes from Walmart, it goes down to that building. If they don't clean their creek, that part up, that water is going to get stuck and it comes over to my part in the building, then I have to end up picking up dead fish. I'm not equipped to pick up dead fish.
Well, thank you for your comment.
But so,
You know,
I just wanted to speak to everybody. God bless y'all. I sympathize with everybody was going through because I'm ready the same boat. And I thank you for letting me speak, sir.
sure.
But I gotta go, and I wish and pray to God that somebody would do something about this water. They got to. They got to. I can't live like this. I just like a phone number, sir, where's my boyfriend, I don't know if it's too late to call FEMA and see if he can get some kind of funding for losing his vehicle, brand new car, call.
Yeah, if you could just provide, write the number down there, Ms. Carroll, on that piece of paper. Right there.
I just need a phone number where I can call and talk to somebody. And I appreciate it.
Thank you. This is Dennis Brett. Mr. Grant, here.
No, do they have a phone number where I can call them?
You can run it, that's fine.
The FEMA phone number, whoever I gotta call. I need a phone number so I can call because this is ridiculous. So it's gotta be done.
Yes, good.
I got a lot of same problems everybody else does, sewage in the basement.
I'm
And,
sorry,
You know, same back in 2020. And, the other problem I have besides that, I live on South Temple Boulevard between Fifth and Sixth. Now, once that big area, I mean, the 4 blocks, all the backyards come together. And I lived there all my life. When I was a kid, that was an open creek in the back where I played. So now the township has 2 big pipes back there. And it's like a river. It comes towards the back of my house, and then there's an open grade there. And when it hits that, it's a 90, so the storm water comes out of that grade because it can't make that 90. Now it floods my backyard and my garage is under. Same thing in 2020. And then when it makes that 90, it would run down to Fifth and Francis and then down to Fifth Street Highway and underneath. I mean, it's getting worse every time, you know. This time was worse in 2020, you know. I mean,
What address are you at?
504 South Temple. And that's my concern. I don't know if, I mean, there's 2 big pipes back there and the water just comes down off the mountain. And I think they did some work on Fifth Avenue a couple of years ago, but it hasn't really helped. And I mean, a lot of people I talked to back there, the majority of them I talked to, they all got flooded.
Yeah.
So that's my concern.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mark.
Mark George, I was a fire chief at Temple Fire a couple years ago for quite a while. Just a little bit of timeline here real quick, you know, everybody. This has been going on for over 40 years, this creek thing. I joined the fire company in 1981, and we were pumping basements from then until now. I mean, it's nothing new. And my curiosity got me this storm, so I got in my car and I drove over through here, all the trouble spots we used to have. You know, and the storm water was holding its own, the streets were falling, going down the storm sewer boxes. And the first place it actually failed that I saw was coming off the rail trail on the south side of Hay Road. The muddy water was coming down Hay Road. And the muddy water came off of Rising Sun Avenue in Mount Vernon. I went to all the points on the creek, Mount Laurel, Temple Playground, front and back, 8th Avenue, Kutztown Road. The creek was taking care of itself until it finally decided, you know, well, I actually, you know, I had to skip back and get the heck out of there because I wouldn't get out of there for days with my car. But the roads were fine until the creek came over. And when the creek came over, that was it. And that's the way it always is. When the mud, I'm thinking back years ago, we had water waist high in the alley behind the fire company years ago one time from the creek. So, in a little defense of the township, over the years, I know the township, even to this day, they keep the stormwater boxes, you know, cleaned out before a storm in the streets, not so much now, now when there's leaves, they're on there all the time cleaning out the street boxes. And I know that the township going in there and taking, I think the DEP says you can't interrupt the physical structure of the creek. In other words, the township has gone in there many times over the years at the hook there on Mount Laurel Road and remove loose debris before storms or after storms, which kind of helped the flow. Understand, and I remember back when we had a former director of engineering, I don't know if that's the timeline you're talking about the fine, but I know then he had authorized somebody on the Member Swing Association to go in there and try to clean the creek. And the same thing, you know, but the DEP is a powerful organization. The Water Authority, who had to deal with, it was impossible to find a water leak under the creek this last time. They had to go and jump through hoops with DEP to get a permit to fix a water main break. That's how powerful the DEP is. They're such a powerful organization. They dictate all these rules and regulations, but they don't ever think of the people. That creek wasn't like that 40 years ago. It was deeper, it was wider, it didn't have all the debris. So how can they say that you can't go in there and change it, but it's changed on its own? So who's gonna fix the change that occurred through nature? All the stuff that flows down from Houses Township, all the vegetation that grows, the Lower Run Creek behind the Temple Playground real quick, I call it the overflow. The Temple Creek flows past the playground. There's an overflow, when it gets so high, it flows down, and then it comes across the second part of the Lower Run Creek, across 8th Avenue at the forest. So it's a little bit of fail-safe building there, because most of the time, most of the creeks are dry, there's not much in it. But just going back to the DEP theory here, they have to realize that this deteriorated on its own, from no help from Muhlenberg Township, the residents, even development. Because like I said, the streets were holding their own water. There was no water problem in the streets over east of 222. When I came over, I drove through Water Street there, across from Pizza Como, in the block between there, and you go to Shells on the back there. Nothing. So I did my nose poke and drove right up here and get back. Whew, I had to go. I mean, it was that once the creek came over, that was it. A friend of mine over around the corner from Lower Run Creek, he said it was coming up as a floor drain. So he put a plug in and it shut out of the toilet. So the problem is the sewer. The sewer becomes an issue once the water can't handle itself. There's a manhole cover popped off of Mount Vernon Avenue. Because the creek and I guess maybe the stormwater at that point was too much under the ground. But believe it or not, the township has been proactive in trying to do what they can do without getting fined or their fingers smacked from the powerful DEP here. But they have to realize that something has to change. This, like I said, look what they destroyed at Antietam. They're working on that bridge down there. Wash the whole thing away. It's funny we put I-95 back in shape in a week. Or 40 years, 40 years, you can't fix the Lower Run Creek or the Bernhardt Creek. So the DEP needs to have some pressure put on somebody and say, listen, take your rule book, come out here and suffer and see what these people suffered out here. And try to fix it. Now, the fire department, to speak from this fire chief here, pretty creative with his resources. They can only do so much. We had, and Carol LaFavor can attest to this, we had flood water in 5,000 Black Town Road years ago. We had to pump the yards out before we pumped the basements out. So you talk about the fire department taking a while to get to you. The fire department has plenty of things to do one time, and they prioritize it by life safety. Once your basement's flooded, you make for water in your basement, that's it. I mean, that's not a priority per se, because the damage is already done. Once that water's there, everything's wrecked. They have to prioritize people that have life issues and mitigate. It's like a fire. When you have a house on fire, the house next to it is burning too. Well, you try to put that one out first because the other one's already burning down. There's times where you have to make decisions as to what's the right thing to do. And the fire department's always done that. They've always made the decision to do the right thing. That's the first time they were, helicopter we gave in. It was pretty creative, trying to help out. But you have to get the township to credit. They're trying to, what they can do with the rule book they're following. Unfortunately, the taxpayers and the township didn't write the rules. The people sitting behind a desk somewhere, they screw on paper, So anyway, and the only silver lining in the whole thing is thank goodness the power didn't go out. Because we had pump situation years ago where everybody was without power. You talk about how bad it could have been. Whew, that would really take that power. So anyway, it doesn't downplay the fact that everybody had problems. But they continue to go on the wall and try to make things easier for you to fix the problem.
Thank you, Mark. Next I have, is it Candelari?
Yes.
This is Candelari?
Yes. Okay, good evening, everyone. I too had the same problem with the sewer backing up into my house. The first time the flood started, it was really bad and scary because I have a mother who was on hospice and thinking, oh my God, what do I do? How do I get her out? That water was rising very quick. This time, unfortunately, she passed away, but I again was there home alone, and when I saw that this was happening again, the first thing I could do, and you all could laugh, was got a beer and drank it and said, okay, let me start cleaning up what I do. But so again, I live right at 6 and Sharp. I don't know, that never happened before, and I've been there since 2006. So I don't know what's going on, why the sewer backs up, and I love keeping my bathroom clean, but I don't want to be cleaning it. But I wasn't bathroom, and that's what I felt like I was there. I work at a funeral home and I unfortunately couldn't cancel. I had services to run, so I had to live with that smell for days and, you know, until I could clean pretty much everything, get good humidifiers. I understand about the trash and I understand that the dumpsters were put on, right down there by the pool, but you can see I'm little, I can't carry my carpet, very heavy. So I wanted to know, will the trash come and pick it up? It's like right on sharp, not in the front where my trash should be.
We'll give your address, 640.
406th Avenue, it's right by my garage.
Okay.
Yeah, I did cut it up in threes, took me forever, but.
Yeah, we'll be in touch.
Okay, so other than that, and just want to tell everyone, sorry, we're all going through this, you know, it's not easy.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Good night.
Angela Klein, Mount 1137 Mount Laurel Avenue. Yeah, after we go through everyone to sign in and someone.
Before people leave, I want to give them an idea and help keep water out of their basement. Hi, good evening, everyone.
My situation is a little interesting, just like everybody else's, but it's a little unique. Sunday I was at work, I was looking at my cameras and I was like, wow, it's really getting deep, it's really getting deep. In my backyard, it's actually coming up from the ground. At 11:39, there used to be a pond, from what I was told, that was filled in and the water was never taken out. So guess what? Every time it rains, flooding, my backyard and my neighbor's backyard, we get flooded. Not to mention, I'm sorry about the stones. My stones are in the creek right now. I want them back, by the way. The stones were there when I bought the property, by the way. I'm not guilty of it. But I have no way of getting those stones out of the creek. I got hit from it, the front, the side, the back. I didn't even know if my dogs were alive. The water actually came through my whole first floor. My living room floors need to be replaced, the kitchen, the foyer, the bathroom, the 2 other bedrooms. I didn't even know if my house was even standing. Pretty scary, right? So, under my deck, all my stones fell out. There's dirt missing, not to mention on the side of the creek, there's cement boulders there. But guess what? I'm losing dirt. I lost so much dirt and land with this flood. How could I possibly even be responsible for that? Does anybody have any answers?
Well, I think it would be best to come out and visit. Is her phone number there?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I mean, I can give you a call in the next couple of days and we can come out and walk around, maybe see if you can make yourself available too. And I'm somewhat familiar with the property, but not, you know,
Okay.
not.
I'm available after 3:30.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you a call in the next day or two.
Excuse me, is it seeping up after heavy rain or hard rain or?
Well, 2 years ago or whatever it was, it came up from the ground. If it's a real heavy rain, it literally comes up from the ground. Like my whole backyard gets muddy.
Was the pond so bad?
I don't know what their pond was. It was gone by the time I moved in 6 years ago. I was told it was just filled. It looks like there's gravel back there. The property had just changed hands in the last year. So these people that own it don't even have a clue.
They also own the private bridge. This is the address. Of the property.
I don't know the private
Oh, right.
bridge. It's right next door. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll call you in the next day or two. We'll set something up. Something on the ground.
Amber, sign.
I'm at 1117, right next to Miss Angie. I just have a question as far as like, okay, so I have a salon at my house.
My house, my basement still has about this much water in it. We're waiting on getting estimates. I do have flood insurance, thankfully, but it only covers stuff attached to the house, my basement and everything. I applied for, I was trying to apply for a loan to help me so I can work till all this gets cleaned up. I spoke with Harrisburg 3 different times and FEMA today and PEMA, and they told me that they are not able to do anything to help until the township declares it as a state of emergency, and that hasn't been done yet. That happened at 3:30 today. So,
This was our first order of business tonight.
I heard the same exact.
yeah, I know, but I got off the phone with them right before I got here, so there's miscommunication somewhere. Because there's a website you go on and then you put in your state and then the region, it's not there. They're not declaring it as a state of emergency through all these pamphlets I was given at the Exeter Township Health Center.
So if I'm understanding correctly, the process that this looks like now, we declared a state of emergency back on Sunday, but we haven't executed the paperwork because the board hasn't been in one place to be able to sign. They all have to sign, the secretary needs to attest, and then that gets set up the chain of command. So,
Okay,
no, we've ratified that decision, so.
okay, so it's
Is
just
it-
gonna take a little bit.
Well,
to play?
Some people that I've spoken with need a copy of this declaration. If that's the case for you, I'll be able to get this to you by, well, if Dawn signed it now, tonight. If that's what you need. However, from a state and federal perspective, the emergency declarations, the state can't declare the emergency until they've got all of the information from the municipalities. The federal government can't declare the emergency until they have all the information from the counties. So it does take a little bit of time to do that, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, but
Okay, yeah.
if you need this, I'll scan this in as soon as the meeting's over.
that would be awesome.
Yeah, well, you'll just have to give me your email address before you leave.
Okay, sure. I have one more thing, just since I'm here already, not flood related, I won't take up much time, I'm sorry. But the water authority, when I bought my house, it was a multi-unit, okay? We had got permits to make it into one big house. That we bought the house in 2017. I only noticed on my water bill, maybe 4 months ago, that I was being charged 2 service fees. I was being charged double, still for a multi-unit. The water authority is telling me it's not their fault because the township never sent in the paperwork and permits. I had to resend everything. And they said since it was so long, they're not reimbursing me any of this money. It's like $4,000. So who do I talk to about that?
We'll follow up with you on that.
That would be awesome
Yeah,
too.
we'll figure out for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for bringing that.
Amber, what's your list?
Cruise. CRUZ, and you got my permit, so you know I did that.
And I know about the board already, like that, they both did.
Okay, yeah, they're saying no, they had no recollection. I just sent everything back over.
We'll take care of that.
Sounds great.
Thank you. Last signed in, I believe it's Dennis Jody Turner.
My neighbor couldn't sign in. She had to ask her, everybody else, but to sign out, she wasn't there.
Okay, now you guys said that the water runoff isn't really the big deal with everything that's being built. But in 2007, we did have a storm that had 7 inches of rain in one day. That creek never ever flooded. Nobody ever flooded. Now, 2020, 13 years later, was the first one. And of course, 2 weeks ago, or last week, was this one. So how much has been built since that time? You have all the developments on Belmont Avenue, that whole strip. You have one on Hay Road. You got them up on, I don't even know what the hell they go all the way up the top of the hill. Now you want to put another one on Franklin Road, which is going to dump all that water down. You don't got to be an engineer to figure out water runs downhill. And being at the bottom of the hill, it's not a fun place to be.
Thank you.
And the other thing is, I mean, now you guys are putting a new road in, which is really great, but did anybody ever check it, think about checking any of the service underneath the road before you decide to do it?
Aaron.
Services of what? Service. You got your sewer line, water lines, all that stuff.
Unfortunately, we don't really have a lot of time to get you guys a safe road so emergency vehicles could get to you. So at bare minimal expense for the township. We are putting in a new road that will help alleviate any issues. If there is a sewer, I mean, that can happen anywhere. I mean, I replace roads every year and
Right.
we're gonna fail and it needs repair, but
But I'm saying, we know there's a problem with the sewer on that road, where the sewer fills up with stormwater, then injects that into everyone's homes also.
every sewer. While I was driving around assisting as many people as I could on that entire Sunday through Monday to Tuesday.
I know,
I'm
I've
saying
seen
it's
it,
my
I've seen
job.
it many times.
My basement also had sewage in it too that I couldn't address till Thursday.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That, and I live in South Temple, not anywhere near a creek or anybody's
Right.
issue, so that's a whole separate issue than the township and these commissioners will be hopefully addressing that later this spring.
No problem, thank you.
Thank you. She finished.
I'm sorry, it is my birthday. Just for a minute. Not trying to be mean, but what a birthday. And my daughter's was Friday, and she was outside shoveling stone and dirt to try to fill up her driveway. I am at 1138 Mount Laurel Avenue. I am on the corner of Mount Laurel and Commerce Street, so I don't know who, any of you guys have been by there or not, and have seen my property. It is very sad. My structure under my porch, I don't know whether my porch is gonna stand. Okay, between my sidewalks and my curb, there is literally, I could stand in that, and it's over top of my head. Okay, Met Ed won't do anything about the telephone pole there. I don't know how far down those telephone poles go, but there's at least a 6-foot drop right there. I have pictures, I can show you. Underneath my sidewalk goes all the way underneath my grass. My grass is not even stable enough, okay? Not only that, it crashed in my basement window. I had it flowing through my basement window as it was flowing down Mount Laurel Road. Thank God we thought about checking the basement because my electrical panel was sitting right next to that window. And we turned the electric off. I forget who it was, about talking about electric, not having electric when you're pumping out basements. Well, I was there like that. I understand. I'm sorry, it irritated me very bad to hear you keep saying this was a part-time job for you. I'm sorry that you signed on for this. You were elected for this, correct? You were appointed for this, correct? Yes, it might be a part-time job, but unfortunately, you guys are here for us, correct? We asking for help. I don't have flood insurance. You guys took me out of the flood zone 8 years ago. Not only that, what's gonna happen in the next week or so when we get another flood? If you remember back in 2020, this happened. Not only did it just happen back in 2020, 3 days later, I don't even think it's 3 days later, there was a flood directly after that again, which was worse. Yeah, you understand, these developments are getting the flood, getting proper drainage areas. What about the other places that it's disrupting? Up on hills and stuff like that, that water needs somewhere else to flow. Guess what? Nobody on Mount Laurel has ever put another sewage drain in there, have they? Those sewage drains, I've lived there 18 years, it's the same sewage drains, it's been there since you've been building all these years. So what is that doing? There's other places that you guys need to take care of when you do build other places. Where else is the water gonna flow? It flows past there. Once their drainage holes fill up, guess what? It comes down to us. And then our drainage holes are too small to handle it. I called 5 times on Sunday. Guys, listen, I have never called you guys before. Hey, you need to close this road down. You need to close it down now. Guess what? 1,800 block of helicopters are rescuing people. They told me, I'm sorry, we're busy everywhere else. And don't get me wrong, I understand you're busy everywhere else. Understand that completely. But when somebody hasn't called you in 18 years and I've been flooded before and said, you need to close down this road, there's a big problem. People walking down the roads with their kids playing it. I'm sorry, people, but that's half sewage, by the way. So when you're walking down flooded waters thinking it's fun to play in and your kids are playing in it, it's not just creek water. It's sewage water as well, because those sewage pipes are backing up. So my question to you, can we get any help as a community? Because the same as she said, I called FEMA today too. The state hasn't declared a state of, you guys haven't declared a state of emergency, and I understand
because I work for a government facility. Not gonna say which one at this point. But you sit there and I understand it trickles down. But these homeowners, and it's not just me, because I've been around and I've seen other people damaged, so I'm not trying to zero out just myself. It's sad. I have no flood insurance. Even if I did, the really sad part is the major damage I had, flood insurance wouldn't even cover it. Because it only covers the structure of your house inside the house. So what's gonna happen to my yard that's 6 feet deep? I live up on a little slanted hill, never had it this bad. It keeps getting worse. It keeps getting worse. 2020, 2 times in a row. Now look at this. What are we gonna do 3 more years down the road? I don't want to hear 100 years, because this has been happening more often than not. Save a life, save a house. I'm sorry, my house probably would have been next that got demolished if it would have happened one more time this week. I asked anybody, you know what, the dirt that you guys are taking from here and there, can you please just bring it to my house? Please, I don't have the money like that. I just spent $3,500 in the last week, and if you drive by my house, it looks like I've gotten nowhere. Nowhere. Because that was just for the basement that was flooded. So even if I had flood insurance, they wouldn't help me in any way with the amount of damage I have. Homeowners insurance, they won't help me even with anything because it was a flood. So where is it that a community that like this, and I pay my taxes just as well as everybody else, where is our tax money going? Where is our tax money going when there is a traumatic thing like this? When somebody needs that much help? Do you want me to walk out on my front porch and have my front porch cave in? I'm asking, what are you guys gonna do for us as a community until FEMA or the state or somebody can take over? Because it's still a dangerous situation a week later.
We're trying to do everything within our power to help the areas that have been impacted. I mean, we can't go and give you, just fund you money to help fix your stuff.
And that I understand.
Well, we're trying, that's what my point is, that we will do everything we can possibly do to help you through this situation. The entire community, we're all taxpayers too. We've all had water, guy out for freaking 3 days with sewage in his basement. We understand and we empathize with everything everyone's saying, and we understand the point. Since 2007, the young man said before, sediment, the creeks, you know, over that time, they degrade, they stuff happens.
There's something up to you guys knowing that it's nature, it's natural. There's shit that's gonna, I'm sorry, but there's stuff that's gonna get clogged up in there. There's stuff that's gonna be washed up in there. It's gonna get lower and it's not gonna flow as much as it is. But it's up to you guys as the township to say, hey, you know what? Every 5 years, we gotta go in and dredge this creek. Every 5 years, we gotta go in and make sure the debris out from underneath these bridges are gone. Not wait until there's a disaster or something like that to go in and do it. You have to do something on a regular basis to keep this up. So therefore, it stops happening like this. Or it's going to be a buildup. And guess what? It's going to be like this. The permits that you guys let happen whenever you're building communities. You know what? Don't just make the permits for that. What about the permits 2 miles down the road where the rest of the drainage, once theirs get filled up, ours is going to get clogged up? Do you see what I'm saying? There's other problems that exist that you guys are not taking care of. 18 years I've lived here. I'm from Ocean City, Maryland, I say. And I've never seen anything like this. Been near the water all my life. Never expected this in Temple, Pennsylvania, I can tell you that. I could have actually took a surfboard and surfed outside my house. Literally, I had a 5-foot wave right there in front of the fire hydrant. I call, nobody helps. I call, nobody gives me answers. You guys tell me you're waiting for the state, you're waiting for the government, the state telling me they're waiting for you. I'm tired of getting a ride and runner. I just want answers. Now, one time since Sunday, has any of you guys came by and knocked on my door, told me any information, told me anything? Every time I call, I get the runaround. There's no information being given to me. There's nothing, not even a hey, you know, I just let you know we are still working on this situation, nothing. People drive by, they don't even turn their damn head at my house, they see me outside. Why? A simple hey Gary, how are you? Sorry this happened to you. You know what? We're still working on it. Here's my card. I'll let you, you know, give me your number. I'll let you know if we hear anything.
nothing from you guys. And I understand you're busy. Everybody else has the same issue I have. Some of them worse, some of them not so worse. But in simple communication is a lot better. I didn't even know about this meeting until one of my neighbors told me. And I was on the website just today to find out if there was any updates on any of this. Communication is best for everything, right? All right, that's my piece. But I'd like some answers though. You guys have a good night. I wish I could talk for that.
All right, Judy, you had a comment or who was it?
I missed my name.
Oh, I might have. I'm sorry. Go ahead, young man.
Yeah. Well, it's my turn to beat the dead horse. The thing is, I own the apartment that Tina was talking about, the other lady in the pink shirt. She lives on the first floor. That building, my grandfather built that house in 1917. It's been in the family since then. And I lived there for 7 years of my life. I'm 80 today. And there were never any of these situations until Agnes. 1972 was the first that I can remember. I don't think there was anything before that. So what changed from the 50s to the 70s that causes this problem in the Kutztown Road? Now, we're all in the same boat. Maybe that's what we need, boats. But the thing is, where does that creek terminate?
In the Schuylkill River.
Yeah, it goes underground at the Kutztown Road somewhere, right past Windsor Service. Correct?
No, that's Bernhardt's Creek at Windsor Service. Nope, two different creeks. Well, I
I'm
guess.
talking about Bernhardt.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to Laurel Creek. Yes, also discharges the Schuylkill River.
Yeah, right. And so that was put underground, and I think that that might be a bottleneck, aside from the fact that the building was built over top of the creek, which was somebody made a stupid decision. I don't know who that would have been. None of you guys were even born by that at the time that was built. There's no question about that. But the thing is, we have the problem, and it's like several people have said, it's only getting worse. So what is the solution to the problem? What is the solution to getting water in the basement? Putting a valve on the sewer outside? That would be a good idea. Plus, everybody should have a sump pump. That would help too. But it's not helping the people that lost cars. Both of my tenants lost cars in this past flood. We had a flood in 81 or 82, somewhere around there. My parents in 72 had to replace everything that was in the basement, and they lost a lot of other things. In 82 or 81, whatever that was, we lost everything again. And that was my responsibility. And at the time, I could replace all that stuff. I could do the work. Today, I can't. Maybe I'm just making excuses, but it's kind of tough to do. In 2007 or 8, there was another flood.
I was down in Mississippi helping people recover from the hurricane. Katrina. Anyway, I was helping them, and my mother-in-law lived in the first floor at that time. And she calls me in Mississippi and wants to tell me what's going on. And it's, what's doing? I said, Susie, I can't help you. Call your son. Fortunately, it didn't, in that case, it didn't really get into the basement. But if it's coming up through the floor, which is what it is these days. Especially in 2020, there was no indication of any water coming in from outside. This last one, I got some in from outside. So those are that's what has to be addressed. I don't know, and I know you don't know what the solution is to the overrun on the road. How are you going to treat that? What do people have to do? I mean, people have lost their cars, and not the first time in some cases. But anyway, is there funds available? Will there be funds available for taking care of these two items like the sump pump and the valve? Is there going to be funds available for that? And where do they come from? Well, that's all I got. Thank you.
And Rosenberger, you had your hand up.
Yes. I'm very concerned about my neighbors' health and safety. When you have raw sewage pouring into your home, and we don't even know, we don't know if it was bubbling out of sewer drains somewhere in the back of our property or woods or anything. So I'd like to know, has the Department of Health been contacted? Has the DEP been contacted? Who on this board is responsible and accountable for filing reports with them?
If you're talking about sewage, that would be the responsibility of the water authority. I can tell you that the water authority has contacted DEP in regards to the water main break.
Okay.
What, can you share with us your address, please?
1212 Riverview Drive. Okay, there is an act, it's called the Pennsylvania Sewer Facility Act of 1966. I'm sure none of you are familiar with it, but it does relate back to the sewer and pump stations and runoff and the maintenance, the records, maintenance records of these pump stations and the upkeep of it is the responsibility of the township or municipality in which it lies.
And in 1966,
The act, the Pennsylvania.
no, that's fine. And shortly thereafter, when Muhlenberg Township created the Muhlenberg Township Authority, it then became their responsibility to perform those actions.
Okay.
Yeah, so those questions we can't answer. I'm sure that nobody here can answer those, but representatives of Muhlenberg Township Water Authority, according to the act, should be able to.
Okay, so has anybody contacted the Department of Health?
Again, that would be,
But you communicate with them, you work side by side, you hired them to represent you. So there should be a line of communication back and forth between the two of you. Has anybody contacted the Department of Health or the DEP? Is people's wells contaminated? Is the environment contaminated? This is a public safety issue.
I think Jim answered your question, ma'am. That would be the responsibility of the water authority to have contacted those entities and to deal with the situation from their end as being the responsible party for the sewage facilities and the water facilities. So I would encourage you to contact the authority, go to their meetings and say your piece there.
The next meeting is August 10th, for anyone who wants to go, at 7 p.m. at Oak
Street.
We know. We'll find out, Ann. We just can't answer it. It's their responsibility. We know.
I can.
I think the commissioner said that they've been having trouble contacting them too, so.
Yeah,
I
I
tried.
forward
It's not like I
it actually, I know you say you work hand in hand and you handed responsibility to them and all, but the act still points back, it was created in 1966, but it's actually your responsibility. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Tracy Rhodes, I'm just one of the many residents that lives on Rising Sun Avenue, and I thank you to Mr. Bobek and Jeremy. They've been a great help to us this week. I am the person that Dave, who left now, spoke about the shed being encroached on his fence and needing help with big machinery, because these are two prefabricated buildings that flood insurance does not help with. Besides that, and numerous things I could say to agree with everybody else, my one thing I want to point out tonight is permits and doing a better job approving them. It might not be this township's overall responsibility for the one that happened behind us on whatever street that is. There's a man who, after the 2020 flood, was allowed to, because he was in the floodplain and not the floodway, build a berm with like 80, and I'm not even kidding, dump trucks worth of dirt. So now all that debris that would have went on my property, Dave's property, and his property on the other side comes all over to our side of Rising Sun. I got knee-high debris. Jim and Jim, well, I don't know if Jeremy was in the backyard, but Jim can testify. The debris in my backyard was knee-high in some places. Luckily, I had a volunteer on Saturday come out and remove a lot of it, but I still have a lot of damage and a lot of money out of my pocket. So the other thing with permits is I have my neighbor that Dave also spoke about. Dave's one side, there's a man named Randy on the other side, just moved into December. It's his first flood. I feel for him, but we all lost a lot. He was allowed to bring in tons of dump trucks of 2B stone to build, or however you want to say, construct a stone driveway that attached to his macadam driveway and made a big horseshoe around his property because he owns 2 lots. Well, guess where that stone landed? In my yard. Me and my boyfriend took basically over 8 hours to clean his stone up out of my front yard and around a tree and have somebody clean it up in the backyard. He is upstream from me. How does that make sense to allow him to put that in his yard?
It's already laid again, complete.
And yes, so you talk about permits and maybe waiving the fees, but they need a permit to do this. Apparently somebody called on him. It was not me this time. It's because they thought he was building a berm with that stone, and somebody came out and checked it and allowed him to lay the stone. Well, now he just laid at least 4 more dump trucks to fix his driveway on Saturday. So when it happens again, we're cleaning up that stone. He didn't help one lick, and I get it. He's got his own stuff. But it is frustrating. We are defeated. We are broken. We are financially, physically, and mentally exhausted. So please just do a better job with your permits. Check the topography maps. Come out and view where you're giving these people permission to do stuff, because it affects their neighbors. We're not allowed to redirect the floodwaters. His trash is in my yard. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments? Move on. Judy.
I might be able to help some people with getting water in their basement. Our house was built in 1930. We lived in it 45 years. The first year that we were in there, the creek ran over, and when it does, it comes down Euclid Avenue. And we had 18 inches of water in our basement. So I called my dad and I said, what am I gonna do? He said, I'll come over, and he said, I'll help you get it out. And when we had the water out of the basement, he said, now, this is what you do. And he said, you're gonna laugh at me, and I did, I really laughed. But it works. He said, when the creek comes over, get a bucket and go out in the front between the curb where your sewer pipe is, and then there's a drain. It's got little slits in it. That water comes in those slits, follows the pipe, and it comes up into your basement through the drains in the floor. So I got a bucket, we got a cinder block, and every time it comes over, a bucket's there, and the cinder block's on top, and we have not had water in our basement since the first year that we lived there. So I told my neighbors about it. They had water in their basement. I said, just go get a cinder block and a bucket, that's all you have to do. So they did it, now they're not getting water. So this time, on our side of the street, there were 5 people that had buckets and cinder blocks. The other side just laughed at us. They all got water. So it works.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Jerry. Yeah, just, while everyone's here, so we can move on with business, so if everyone knows what's going on and some of the things that we're first initially trying to handle, I need a motion to amend the agenda for 2 items that I'll cover right away. One is to approve the road repairs and cleanup for SR Trucking, CC&J Construction and Schlauer Incorporated for the amount not to exceed $132,000 for the areas there. So I'll have that motion to amend the agenda. If we could just vote on that right now, I'll need a motion for that. So, second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No, any? The ayes have it, so ordered. The other motion to amend the agenda that Muhlenberg Township Authority that, as you know, has come up several times during this meeting. The Township Board of Commissioners would like to have more oversight due to the numerous questions and information that was brought before us today. So we are asking and requesting that the authority board members voluntarily resign their positions so the Muhlenberg Township Board of Commissioners can take control of some of the processes over the next, a new board will come in January of 2024. But we think it's important to some of the questions that have come up, some of the lack of responses that have come up, that we provide a deep dive and oversight into some of the preventative maintenance, some of the things that we believe could have been handled significantly better, including the sewage problems that you talked about. So I'm just amending that to that motion. This won't be something that goes on, we believe, forever, but we do think it's time now that we as a board, since this is twice in 6 months, that we provide, we find out what's happening so we can help, control the process and maybe help fix some things that are happening. So. Questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those if any? The ayes have it, so ordered. So thank you.
Commissioner Malinowski, before you move on, I think we also need a motion to amend the agenda regarding the motion that you made earlier for permit fee waivers for flood issues and a motion for the continuation of the conditional use hearing. So to amend the agenda for those items.
Gotcha. You have a motion to amend the agenda, still indicated. Approved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those if any? The ayes have it, so ordered. All right, moving on to the regular agenda, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Moved. Second. Questions or comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. No, if any? The ayes have it, so ordered. Any unfinished business? New business, motion to approve payment of bills presented by the Director of Finance and Customer Service.
So.
Second. Questions or comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No, if any? The ayes have it, so ordered. A motion to authorize the township manager to sign documents necessary to allow PennDOT to update the traffic signals at 61 and Hartford Road, because Town Road and Warren Avenue with pedestrian signal request.
So.
Second. Question.
Just some discussion on that. We really could use one at 61 at Bellevue Avenue. There's signs there that said no crossroads, but,
61 at Bellevue, that bridge is slated for replacement. It's on PennDOT's radar. I don't know when it's scheduled for at this point in time. When that happens, those updates will be made then as well. These two updates were a result of PennDOT working with a consultant, a local consultant who has identified not only the improvements that Muhlenberg has made on Fifth Street, but also, has identified the need on Kutztown Road as well. So this is the start of more of those.
61 Park Road.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those if any, the ayes have it, so ordered. Motion to approve payment application number one to Construction Management Services in the amount of $133,200 for work completed on the 2023 annual road paving project.
Moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those if any, the ayes have it, so ordered. The motion to close a portion of Beaumont Avenue for the annual St. Marco Society Festival.
Moved. Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those if any, the ayes have it, so ordered. A motion to adopt resolution 2023-03 repealing resolution 2008-108 requiring fire truck drivers to obtain and maintain a CDL.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
If I may, this was a motion we made last month, but because it was a resolution back in 2008, we should have had a resolution to amend it.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those if any, the ayes have it, so ordered. A motion to authorize the president of the board to execute an agreement with the city of Reading to install guide rail along Spring Valley Road in the area of Barnhart Reservoir.
Move. Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those if any, the ayes have it, so ordered. A motion to extend the airspace lease of Pioneer Crossing landfill for an additional 10-year term for waste generated in the Muhlenberg Township.
Second.
Questions or comments?
That's 5.5% increase.
Maximum, it can be a maximum of 5.5% per year. It has been less historically.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those if any, the ayes have it, so ordered. If no board appointments, no other new business, anyone else wish to speak under the last public portion? Yes, sir.
My name is Charles Thrush. I live on Beaumont Avenue. I was just hoping that along with the walking the street with St. Marco Society Festival, if they would continue with restricting the parking down my portion, 1100 block. Had done it 2 years
We
before.
did it, last couple of years. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take care of that.
Okay. The other thing I'd like to say is thank you for putting up with all the frustrated citizens that we have. I think personally that you're doing a great job. You're restricted in many aspects, but you do what you can do. I also would like to thank our fire department. And Eric, if you'd pass on to your guys, doing a fantastic job. Especially with this last incident with the flooding, with all the water rescues and pumping cellars. You guys are doing a fantastic job. And to our police department chief. Thank you. You guys are doing fantastic. I believe that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll move on to staff comments, Mr. Dunkel.
I got nothing to say tonight.
Thank you.
I'll leave you go.
Joseph? Jeremy? Go on. Steve?
The only thing I really have is August 1st is National Night Out in Beecher Park. Starts at 6 o'clock. Go on out and have some fun.
Get away from the misery of the storm and entertain us and entertain yourselves. Anything further?
We have a planning commission meeting on Wednesday, as I mentioned previously. Special thanks to all emergency services and responders, public works crew who was in on Sunday, driving trucks through the flood waters. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And just, I'll go with the other, just quickly, because I'm sure the emergency services crew and the police department, public works department, just tireless efforts, and thank you all for the dedication and the help in a very trying time. Once again, we heard a lot of comments, but it was 9 inches of water in 9 inches of rainfall in a very short amount of time. So, and you did everything that's in your power to help our residents. So, I think on behalf of the entire board, you can't ask for any more of our team. So, thank you all very much for everything you've done. So, with that, I'll start off with you.
I will just echo those sentiments, and I will also add a great thank you to the office staff too, for also fielding calls, getting communication out. Jim, tirelessly working on behalf of the resident. I want to kind of quantify a statement that I made. The woman talked about when I said that this is a part-time job. If I could do this, if I could earn a living doing this job for you, I would. If I could sit here 50 hours a week and do this job and raise my family, support my wife, and put away for retirement, I would do that. But I can't. But what I do is I'm checking my emails when I'm up first thing in the morning, and they will attest that I send them out bright and early. And I'm also attending meetings in the evening, and I'm also working on emails and making phone calls and things late at night. So nobody runs for this office thinking that they're just gonna sit up here, because the other members of this board won't let them sit here and be inactive members. Every board member here puts in an awful lot of time behind the scenes that you don't see. And I just want to quantify that. I tell people at work that this is my full-time, part-time job. I don't do it I do it because I want to be able to help. I want to be able to give back to my community. And if I'm not doing enough, then I need to hear that. And if there's more that we can do, we will try to do what we can. But I don't want anybody to sit there and think that any member of this board is sitting here and just giving half-hearted effort. We hear you, we do what we can, and when we agonize as best we can to identify and come out and help as best we can. We think that we have the best staff of any municipality in this county. And I think that they proved their mettle during this storm. And that's we rely on them to be our mouthpiece too and get out when we can. And I know that they did that, and I want to just thank them again. I think that's all. Thank you.
Commissioner.
Well, I'd like to thank Public Works people who did a heck of a lot of work. I mean, it was so much around, you didn't know where to start. And I was up at Rising Sun. The work you guys did was just amazing. Thank you very much. When we see them tomorrow, say the word, thanks. The fire department, I get the calls. I see, where you're going, those 90+ calls in that 12-hour period, so it's crazy. And thank you very much, Chief. There was a dedication last Friday for the sculptor on River Road, and sculpture the one that Reverend Urban put up there in memory of his wife, Tucker. It's a very beautiful sculpture, and my only concern with it, Jim, is we need a ballard or we need some stones or something that's so close to River Road. I see that beautiful thing getting hit by a car, and maybe we can put that on the agenda after all this rain and, debris was away, so. That's all I have.
Just want to say thank you to the staff. We have an amazing manager, fire chief, an amazing job. I see you work really hard. That website, Joe, is very resourceful. I'm that insurance agent that will be on the other side of the phone telling you that you don't have flood insurance or that your homeowner's insurance does not cover this. So it was nice to at least have the resources that Muhlenberg had to at least provide that to the residents. So I was very proud to be part of the team. We did work very hard. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's all I have. Everyone have a good evening.